Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you for the next 3 hours. Coming up at midnight, it is your chance to talk back. So I really want you to do that. And what I want to talk about is net zero, because of these figures that have come out. We briefly touched on it last night in the papers, but since then I've been looking into it, and I really want to understand what net zero means, what net zero is, and why it's going to cost so much money. And in fact, when you dig into it, the truth is there isn't a number of how much it's actually going to cost. I've seen 4.5 trillion, I've seen 7.6 trillion, and I've seen 9 trillion. And just to give you an idea of what a trillion is, right, just because we all hear these numbers, right? They all get billion, trillion. It doesn't mean anything to the likes of you and me, right? On the UK average income of 35 grand a year, it would take you 128 million years to earn 4.5 trillion pounds. 128 million years to earn that money. If you earned £1 million a day, for 1 trillion, it would take you 2,740 years to earn £1 trillion. So I just wanted you to get to sort of get the idea that a trillion is a big amount of money, and they chuck these numbers around. Oh, it's just a trillion here, or a trillion there, or a billion here, or a billion there. They're just telephone numbers, right? We don't really understand it. But 4.5 trillion pounds would take you 128 million years to earn that money on 35 grand a year. So there you go. That's the sort of figure we're talking about. Now, we are going to be talking about that in just a moment, but I want to know from you, do you support this drive for net zero? We are supposed to be at net zero in 24 years, right? That's not very long, is it? It's not very long, and it's going to cost us as individuals a lot of money. We know that. We know that already. And there's this idea that they're going to reduce, because we'll have all these renewables, it will reduce our electricity bill by £300 a year. Well, at what personal cost before then? At what actual cost before then? We've already just been told yesterday that diesel's going to be gone from forecourts in 4 years' time. Everybody's going to have to be getting electric. If you want a new boiler, you're going to have to get a ground heat source pump or some kind of renewable energy source rather than a gas boiler. I don't know how people are going to be able to afford that. And especially if you live in a flat. I don't know where you're supposed to put these heat pumps. I don't know. I don't know whether it's been thought through. So that's what I want to talk to you about. Do you support it? Do you care what it costs? We've got to clean up this country, and it's got to be done quickly, so let's just get on and do it. Or do you think this is a pipe dream? This is just ridiculous and we cannot afford to do it? Or can we afford not to do it? So that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back. And you can text the word talk and your message to 87222. Ed Miliband is the man in charge. He was the one that started to put those green charges on your gas and electricity bills in the first place. It was all his idea. So that's coming up. Just to let you know that also we have the wonderful Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist, coming in to go through the newspapers, just as we learned that up north they're going to get a new train line in sort of 2030. They'll start thinking about it. Ant Morse will be here talking to us about these glasses now that can record you. that record and how they are being used by perpetrators and people who are deviant, and how we can possibly get away with that and get around that. The other story that is absolutely fascinating to me is this legal case that Donald Trump is trying to take against the BBC. And what is so interesting is the way that he's framed the law case to say, well, you've defamed me and that has had an impact on my earnings and on my all of that kind of thing. The BBC are now going to ask him to reveal his earnings and his details of his money, all his money, everywhere that he's got it. I don't think he's going to want to do that. Rather brilliant, in my view. Not that the BBC were right to do what they did, but still. So we'll be talking about that with Paul Tweed as well. In this hour. But first of all, let's address this net zero. A new report released by the Institute of Economic Affairs on the cost of net zero has found that the cost is much higher than previously thought. The Climate Change Committee and the National Energy System Operator suggested it would require spending more than 3.4 trillion over the next 25 years, with over £500 million needed for households to replace gas boilers with heat pumps and £1 trillion to build new infrastructure. Well, today's IEA study suggests that the figure could be around 7.6 trillion or over 9 trillion, including the carbon costs of emissions. So let's get into this. Jess Ralston joins me now, who's an energy analyst at the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit. Good to see you, Jess. First of all, what is net zero? What do we mean? We say it all the time, but what does it actually mean?
Good evening. Yes, well, that's quite the question, isn't it? So net zero is about balancing the emissions that we produce with those that we take out of the atmosphere, and it's about balance. So it's a scientific concept to stop the worst impacts of climate change, which the public do back. And it's all about balancing the emissions that we put out with the emissions that we take out. So it's all about that balance and making sure that we achieve, halting climate change and making sure that things don't get any worse, as we've seen across the world. But even in the UK, climate change is already having an impact. So farmers are having the worst harvests. Every year we hear about record heat, which impacts people with health conditions, amongst others. And of course, there's the detrimental impacts of floods and wildfires and things like that as well.
I mean, to me, when you say halting climate change, I can appreciate that if the globe is trying to achieve net zero. But it reminds me in the 80s of driving through areas that said this is a nuclear-free zone. And I would think, well, that's not going to make any difference when the bomb drops, right? Those were the days when we still believed that might happen. Does it make any, if we're net zero, how is that going to halt climate change? Because we're not a bubble.
Yeah, while it's true that the UK is a small proportion of the world's emissions, what the UK does matters. And that's because we pack a large punch for our size in terms of international credibility and getting other people to sign agreements and sign up to policies. I mean, take one example, our renewables auction scheme, the Contracts for Difference scheme. That's now being copied by many countries across the world because it was a successful scheme in getting renewables like offshore wind up and running. But what I'm really keen to talk about as well is the fact that, yes, net zero is a scientific concept to stop climate change, and it's the only one that we have. In order to stop that happening, we need to stop producing emissions, right? But it's also even more so these days about energy security. And we look at what's gone on in the world just over the past few years. We've had the conflict in Ukraine, we've had conflicts all over the Middle East, we've now got Venezuela situation happening, and oil and gas prices have always been volatile, controlled by people we perhaps don't want to be in the pocket of, and they always will be volatile because we don't have any impact on those oil and gas prices.
Wouldn't we have more of an impact if we continued, though, to drill for oil?
Well, we have continued to drill for the past 14 years, and we've got a few weeks' worth of gas out of the North Sea. So what we do in the North Sea, it's so small now, it really doesn't make any difference to global prices, and we're subject to those global prices. We don't control the price. We're a price taker, not a price setter. So the Conservatives had a policy of getting all the North Sea oil and gas out, and it hasn't obviously made any difference because when the gas crisis happened, our bills shot up and we were all subject to that energy bill crisis, and the cost of living crisis is continuing because of that. So really, we don't have any control over that price, and we never will have control over that price. It's set by other markets and by other countries.
And have other countries gone as far? You say that we pack a punch, but has anybody gone as far as to set those sort of legally binding targets like we have?
Yeah. There's lots of countries. I don't have the exact figures, but there's lots of countries all over the world that have net zero targets now, and not only countries, but companies and state level and local authority level organisations do as well. So even when you look at the global GDP covered by net zero targets, it's the vast majority of the global GDP. So we're definitely not the only ones doing this. And actually, we can make money. We can have a benefit from being one of the early adopters of different technologies.
We could possibly make money, but what is it going to cost us in money? Look at, there's a cost of living crisis at the moment. I don't know many people who could afford to go and get a heat pump, even with a grant, even if they've got the space to put it in their garden. What happens to those people who can't fit a heat pump on a 15th story block of flats and their gas boiler goes?
Well, there is no policy to stop people having whatever heating system that they want to have, so nobody has to have a heat pump.
I thought they were going to get rid of gas boilers.
There's no policy to do that, no. There's a target to phase out gas boilers, but that's just a target to phase out.
But how? I mean, that's okay. If there's a target to phase them out, what's the plan?
Well, you'd have to ask the government, but I think the key point is the cost of the system that we have at the moment isn't free either. People have to go out and buy a new gas boiler. Over the course of the gas crisis, people's gas bills shot up because of the international gas crisis, and they don't want to be subject to those anymore. Early adopters can go buy a heat pump, they can go and buy an electric vehicle if they want one. No one's forcing them to. And the real cost is the cost of the system we have at the moment. So the costs of being tied to those volatile markets, our bills shot up because of that. When we move to British renewables, when we move to heat pumps and electric vehicles that are powered by those British renewables, we're away from that international market and we're shielded from future gas price volatility.
We're always told, though, that there are issues with renewables, switching off huge numbers of windmills and paying people to keep them switched off at the cost to the taxpayer. The sun doesn't shine perhaps the right way all the time for those solar panels. What is going to actually provide us with energy security? Because the weather is unpredictable, right? It is not something you can rely on happening, particularly now with climate change. We can't rely on the summers being sunny and the winters being windy anymore. So what is going to provide us with that energy security? We're still going to have to use oil or gas or nuclear.
Well, there's been many different organisations, including the National Energy System Operator, who, of course, is responsible for balancing the grid and making sure that we have enough supply to meet demand. And they're confident that we can run the grid on our clean power goals.
So why are we switching windmills
technologies
off?
coming down the line now, which are going to be balancing the grid. You've got batteries obviously going in around all over the country. You've got
again, Jess, I've been told that the battery technology isn't good enough yet. It will be, but it's not good enough yet to store the kind of energy that we would need as a country. And we're told all the time that these things are having to be switched off. So what happens when it's too windy and the windmills are in danger of whatever it is scientifically they're in danger of doing, and we can't rely on those renewables? What's the backup?
System flexibility is required with whatever system you have. So when we've had gas power systems dominating over the past couple of years, they also need balancing. So you need balancing with any sort of system. Yes, there is a degree of more balancing when you have renewables on the system, but the NESO, the National Energy System Operator, is confident that it can do that, and they're the ultimate authority here. So there's lots of different technologies coming down the line that can balance the grid, and will do so. And we're seeing that. So last year we smashed lots of different renewable records, had one of the greenest years, and there was no blackout, and things are continuing at pace. So I really think that talks about blackouts are scaremongering.
That's just a question, because a lot of people are asking me that question. So the other question, I've got one here, says, what difference will net zero make to temperatures? That's from Paul.
Well, reaching net zero by 2050 is what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said is required to limit global warming to under 2 degrees. So that's the aim.
But that's if the whole world does it, though. I mean, well, okay, so what impact will Britain going net zero have on the world?
Well, as I said earlier, it's about making sure that we have an example, we set an example for others to follow.
So not then? It's not going to make any difference, is it, to climate change if we go net zero?
When we go, the rest of the world also, takes note of what we do and does similar things. And we can see that from the technologies that are being rolled out in China. Obviously, they do have coal power stations, but they've also got loads of solar, they've got loads of wind, they've got loads of electric vehicles, they've got loads of heat pumps. We're not the only ones making this transition. It is a global transition that is happening.
Has China committed to net zero by 2050?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Has China committed to net zero at all? And if it has what date has it set? Do you know?
I believe it's aiming for 2060.
Okay. So we'll be 10 years ahead of one of the biggest, well, they're not even the biggest polluter now, but it's not really going to make any difference, is it? We're going to have to wait for everybody else to catch up.
China's quickly becoming what they call an electro state. So instead of a petro state like some of the traditional oil and gas countries that people associate with oil and gas, you've got China, which is becoming an electro state, really looking into electrification. So we don't know exactly what China's going to do. It might bring forward its target, it might not, but it's fast becoming one of the most electrified countries in the world, and has loads of solar and other renewables going in.
And finally, is hitting net zero in this country possible or probable even in 24 years?
Well, when you think about the last 24 years, you think about what's changed. So when was it? 2002? Internet, was that really a thing? People didn't have broadband. Some people still had dial-up. Mobile phone technology was obviously not where it is today. A lot can happen in 20, 25 years. So I wouldn't rule it out. I think that it's very possible if we have the scale of change that the government has committed to, and whatever governments come after that will obviously be a huge impact on the target. But it's certainly desirable, it's certainly necessary, and it's certainly beneficial because as the UK, we need to be at the forefront of that global transition, which is happening.
Jess, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Jess Ralston there, Energy Analyst at the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit. Well, joining me now is Andrew Montford, who's Director of Net Zero Watch. Andrew, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you.
Is net zero in 24 years probable or even possible?
It is extremely unlikely. In fact, I would say there isn't a cat's chance in hell that it's going to happen. The issue is that we've had spin for decades of people saying that renewables are going to bring electricity prices down, and essentially they've gone up pretty much every year for 20 years, and the costs are now unsustainable. And if something is unsustainable, it will not be sustained. So net zero, or the drive to try to achieve net zero, is grinding to a halt very rapidly. The problem we have is that households can't afford their electricity bills any longer. Business can't afford to pay its bills, and that second one is a major problem, because if they can't afford their electricity bills, they will close down. And if they close down, demand for electricity will fall, and the costs of the electricity system, which is essentially, it's a big fixed cost. It doesn't change. So all those costs will have to be spread over a smaller number of kilowatt hours, i.e. just the domestic users, if you like. So your electricity bill will rise even further, and essentially we get into a doom spiral. Prices go up, businesses close down, so prices have to go up further, and on and on and on. So I think Jess sort of throws out this spin that they always spin, that if we just keep going, we'll get there, and we won't. You look at America; they've just given up on this completely, and in the new world of realpolitik, where President Trump is trying to get his hands on Venezuelan oil, and we're looking at threats from Russia and from China. mucking around with renewable energy is no longer a viable way of running things.
I mean, it's a laudable aim, right? I mean, we you know, it would be naive to assume that human beings have no impact on what's going on environmentally. You know, whether we're the total fault or not, you know, whether it's cyclical or not. I've just watched an amazing documentary about the end of the world, which has happened 5 times, which had nothing to do with us. So, listen, I'm aware of that. So it's a laudable aim. But is it realistic that if one country does it, then everybody's got to do it, surely, at the same time?
Yeah, that's right. And the problem is that everybody isn't doing it. And, you know, I mean, you're right. I mean, humans do affect the climate. You know, like carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, and that probably will affect the climate.
Yeah.
And, you know, but humans have been affecting the climate you know, since the Bronze Age, when we chopped down all the trees with stone axes and things like that. You know, that affected the climate. The climate changes all the time. People talk about the climate as if at some point it was stable. The climate's never been stable. Yeah. So, you know, to say that, oh, the climate's changing it's like saying that rain falls. I mean, it's just what it does. So to say it's a laudable aim is, well, a bit iffy, I think. And then, you know, you get into the thing of, well, we're trying to stop it changing when it's never been stable in the past. And, you know, even if we are affecting it in the way people are saying, what we're spending on it is actually making us worse than if we just let it happen. I mean, the costs of net zero far, far outweigh the benefits. You know, the climate change avoided. You know, that's according to official estimates of what the harms of climate change are. So what we're doing is completely irrational. And, you know, people often talk about, you know, climate change catastrophism as being kind of like a religion, and it is. You know, the people who believe in it are just going off and saying we have to do this regardless of the costs, and this is why we're in the trouble we're in, and we are in deep trouble. And
but I always question, Andrew, as well, when we hear about these net zero point. Right. So, for example, an electric car, right? It doesn't emit any fuel stuff, so that's good. But it is fueled by electricity, which does, and there is the carbon footprint of building the car in the first place, and the batteries, and getting rid of the batteries, and the environmental cost of safely disposing of those batteries when they're no longer fit for purpose. All of those things don't seem to ever be calculated when people like Ed Miliband are talking about reducing emissions. Okay, we might reduce them on that mile of that road, but we've created a massive amount of emissions in the building of the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge amount of resources goes into things like electric cars and heat pumps, and you know that a huge amount of resources have gone into them because they're so expensive.
So
you know,
expensive.
the price is what tells us how much resource has gone into it. So yes, EVs are hugely hungry for resources. That's why they're so expensive, and that's why really we would be better off just having petrol and diesel cars. And, you know, the reality is, you know, the drive for EVs is going to end, I think, because, you know, we're doing away with the subsidies and the tax advantages for them. You know, they get this huge benefits in kind benefits, so you know, businesses buy them. Most EVs are actually sold to businesses. Those benefits are going, so EV sales will grind to a halt. Heat pumps are going to grind to a halt too, because electricity is so expensive now. Gas heating is much, much cheaper than electric heating now. So, you know, nobody's going to buy a heat pump unless, you know, they're absolutely forced to, or, you know, suppliers are told you will sell them heat pumps rather than gas boilers and all this kind of thing. So, yeah, it's all going to grind to a halt. And we just have to hope that the damage done to the economy is not too much before we have to change. And my fear is there is going to be a huge amount of damage done to the economy before we actually get a change in policy.
It's a fascinating topic. It really is, because it's so multi-leveled. But Andrew, thank you very much indeed for your view. Andrew Montford there, Director of Net Zero Watch. That's what we're talking about at midnight. Give me a call. Do you buy this stuff? Are you convinced that we can or should do net zero? And at what cost? What are you prepared to pay for in order to see it done? That's coming up, but I'm having a quick break now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. It's time now to find out how you could be in with a chance of winning a trip of a lifetime to San Francisco. Talk is giving away flights, a 3-night stay at a 4-star intercontinental hotel, and $2.5 grand spending money, plus tickets to the Super Bowl to top it all off. Listen now to how you can enter.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343-418-7260. Lines close 22nd January 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at TalkSport.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good evening. It's Petrie here. Just a reminder, we're going to be talking about being secretly filmed by people wearing smart glasses. And then Ed Wiseman will be joining us at the top of the hour. And I suspect he'll have much to say about that breaking news about a new train line for the north of England. So we'll be discussing all of that coming up. Now, though, I don't think they get much more interesting than this law case or legal case, this lawsuit. As I mentioned at the top of the programme here, the BBC is to file a motion to dismiss Donald Trump's lawsuit. The US president has filed a multi-billion-dollar, I think it's $5 for two claims, $5 billion per claim for two claims, sorry, a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit in Florida 4 weeks ago over how the corporation had edited a panorama report on its 6th of January 2021 speech. The BBC has apologised over the edit and rejected his demands for compensation, saying there was no basis for a defamation claim. But it gets cleverer than that. I'll let the lawyer tell you, although I'm absolutely aching to. But here we go. Paul Tweed joins me now, international defamation lawyer and partner at W.P. Tweed. Hello there, how are you?
Good evening, Petrie. Feeling good. Getting close to my bedtime, but keeping going.
I know, I'm the same, but honestly, it's all coffee that just keeps me going from now on. This is really, really interesting to me. I've got so many questions, I don't even know where to start. All right, first of all, the BBC is asking or saying, what jurisdiction does a Florida court have over a British corporation? Can you answer that?
Well, that's going to be the real primary battleground here in this case, establishing jurisdiction. The normal approach would be for President Trump to have sued the BBC in London, where they're based, where their headquarters are. But for different reasons that perhaps are explained by the length of time it took the BBC to investigate all this, he's out of time to do that. You've 1 year to bring a defamation case in London. The other problem with London is that damages, we don't talk in terms of billions, we don't talk in terms of millions. In fact, we barely talk in terms of hundreds of thousands. I mean, the guidelines for a very serious defamation in London, it's about £300,000. So that, I'm afraid, would not be of much interest to Donald Trump in the scale of damages he's used to. As you'll be aware, he's already had a number of eye-watering settlements. They're small by comparison to what he's claiming in the BBC, but he got, I think, about 15 million from ABC, owned by Disney. He got 16 million from CBS, $25 million from Meta. So he's used to the big bucks, if you like, but these are the big billion-dollar bucks now we're talking about so far as the BBC is concerned. So the battleground, so far as the BBC is concerned, I don't think this case was ever going to be settleable in terms of the financial demands. So you have a situation here where in Florida you have 2 years to bring a defamation case, so he's all right from the point of view of the statute of limitations.
He's also got a friendly judge in Florida, which is why he prefers Florida, right?
Possibly, and jury as well. You don't forget, with no juries anymore for defamation cases in England. Basically, the BBC have got to fight. They've got to try and stop this case in its tracks. If they can't stop it with the applications that they're planning at the moment, they're going to run into the hazards of discovery. They're going to be required to produce documentation. Now, whatever you think of the merits of this case, whatever you think of the sum claimed, the fact is the BBC are in a tricky wicket here. I mean, by their own admission, this was very, very inappropriate editing, to put it as kindly as I can. They deliberately have created a situation here. It's caused the resignation of the Director General and a Senior Director of Programmes. So, they are accepting that they've done wrong here. They've done very wrong. Now, the question is...
But being wrong I agree. I think it was appalling, a bit of editing, and actually it was also completely pointless because it didn't need to be done for the editorial. But the thing is with defamation, and I learnt this when somebody live on a programme I was presenting accused me of being a paedophile and a prostitute. And obviously I was completely upset about that, and I went to see the lawyers at ITN at the time, and they said, yeah, but no one's going to believe that. So he did wrong. He defamed me. There was no question of defamation, right? Because I am neither of those things. But it didn't impact my life in any way, therefore there were no damages to be paid, and I was told to also to deposit £300,000 in order to bring that case. So that's the point here, isn't it? There's no denying the BBC was wrong, but did they defame and damage Donald Trump's reputation? That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that would be our next stage we'll be coming to. But just even to dealing with that, a couple of points you made there, Petrie, I mean, first of all, you were asked to put up money up front for legal costs.
300,000.
That happens sometimes in London. It really depends on which firm you're dealing with or how you're dealing with. But in the United States, of course, there are contingency costs. So normally what you'll have in a case of this nature, where the lawyers will agree to do the case on the basis that they will take a percentage of any damages awarded. So say, for the sake of argument, sometimes cases, if they're settled for 5 million, the lawyers will take all the risk, they'll take all the expenses, etc., and they will also take 35%, 40% of the damages. So it means that somebody, if you were suing for that case you have just described in the United States, you would get lawyers queuing up that would be prepared to take the case on. They wouldn't charge you any money, but they would take a substantial whack of the damages you're awarded. So Donald Trump is probably not concerned about the cost element that you would quite understandably be concerned about. The difficulty here is, was he defamed? In terms of the way, and again, we don't know the full background yet about what happened behind the scenes of the BBC. Was this sort of a deliberate act by 2 or more people who were engaged in a conspiracy, which is also, ahead of a tort that could be brought here? Was it something that happened? Just one person decided, look, this looks better if we edit it this way. We don't know that fully yet, and that's why the discovery process is something that I suspect the BBC, in fact, any defendant would want to avoid, because literally everything has to be produced, particularly in the American court system, where discovery there's a lot of weight put on it, and it tends to be very, very wide-reaching.
And so there's a very high bar.
Knock this out now if it can.
Just very quickly, there's a very high bar in the US, isn't there, because of the freedom of speech laws there. Yep. There's an extremely high bar to prove that there was malice, that you have to prove malice.
Yeah, this First Amendment protection, full stop, to all citizens, which again is effectively freedom of speech. And a public figure has to show actual malice, as opposed to malice that we'd be used to in the UK courts, where recklessness counts as malice. In the US, it has to be actual malice. Now, obviously, Donald Trump will have to show that the BBC were malicious in terms of the way they did this. They deliberately edited the relevant slot to portray a false picture of him, and to portray him in such a light that anyone watching it or listening to the programme would think much less of him. Obviously the BBC would be arguing about they would be bringing evidence about his reputation at the time, like, is it really damaged, have people not made these allegations about him before or whatever. Those are all factors, but we haven't got to that stage yet. So the BBC will want to try and stop this case in its tracks now, if they can, to avoid the discovery process and avoid the cases the costs starting to multiply dramatically. Because of course the BBC aren't going to get the luxury of a contingency arrangement. They're going to have to pay for their costs as they go along. Yeah. And in the United States, as in London, they can be eye-watering and they build up very, very quickly. So their first point is that they're arguing that the programme was not actually broadcast within Florida. You could not access it within Florida. Donald Trump's team say that it's available on BritBox. BBC are saying, no, check it, You can't get it in BritBox. Donald Trump's team, I think I understand, are saying that it can be accessed by VPN. That again is something that's going to have to be a matter of evidence before the courts. So that the key battle, the jurisdiction. I mean, it was a very risky choice for the Trump team to pick Florida, even though, as you said at the outset, he's playing effectively in home ground here, and you can understand why he would want it in Florida. But that fact alone, if the BBC can establish that there was no publication within the jurisdiction of the court that's hearing the case, that could be a win for them. Then they're also arguing that there was no actual malice, and that goes back to the point that I just made there. It'd be up to them to show. Now, it's quite an unusual situation just looking at this, at arm's length. And again, I don't know all the facts, and as you know yourself, with your broadcasting background, quite a lot of things can happen behind the scenes that perhaps can be explained. Other things can't be explained. And the BBC do not have a good record of regulating themselves and policing themselves, unfortunately. And I've had bad experience of them myself over the last number of decades. So that's going to be a fairly interesting situation, but I wouldn't be ruling that one out. Just, that's going to be a battle, and it's going to be interesting to see what evidence can or is produced to either counter that or
yeah, I was just going to say, because discovery goes both ways.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump, and the wording on his claim is that it impacted on his earnings, and he blah blah blah. Now that has opened the door for the BBC to say, prove that, show us your bank accounts, show us your earnings since then. So even it can be up to date. Show us what you've been putting into your bank account. We know that he's made billions since becoming President of the United States, for example. It's going to be very hard for him to prove that he's lost money if he's not prepared in discovery to show how much money he's got. And he's not going to want to do that. I think this is quite clever.
No, that's a very good point. And as I say, discovery, as you say, works both ways. Yeah. I don't think that's maybe perhaps been thought through in advance as much. I mean, he's taken the decision, if you like, to claim that it has had a financial impact on him, as well as a reputational impact. And that will be something that they'll have to decide. Are they going to maintain that aspect of the case? Are they going to try and just stick to the reputational damage? That quite often happens. I mean, that particularly in the United States, because, quite often they try to get a very, very, very strong case. They put everything in there, through the kitchen sink into the claim form, because that becomes privileged and therefore protected, so the media can report on everything in there, and they don't have any fear of being sued for defamation or whatever for reporting in the case. So and then what happens then further down the tracks, large aspects of a complaint are abandoned. Now, I don't know, that may or may not happen here. It depends how far we get on it. And of course, Donald Trump as well, if he is knocked out in the early stages here of Florida, there are potentially other avenues for him to follow, albeit it would have to be on this side of the Atlantic, in terms of conspiracy or the tort of deceit or those are all torts. I just don't know, without having the full background. I don't know whether they are something that can be established, but it's a very interesting scenario. But the important thing here is that, Donald Trump has learned the value of pumping out big numbers in anything he does,
hoping
whether
for a settlement,
there's litigation or whatever, because the publicity he's got has been, you could not buy that. I mean, and the BBC, no matter what happens, if this case is resolved tomorrow, still have been very badly harmed by the attention that Donald Trump has put on them, and the fact he's claimed such a substantial sum in itself implies serious guilt, serious
I think this is really fascinating, but I cannot see Donald Trump revealing his bank details to anybody. Good to talk to you, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure we'll talk again on this. Paul Tweed there, international defamation lawyer and partner at WP Tweed. Quick break, back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And coming up at the top of the hour is Ed Wiseman to go through the newspapers. Well, listen, we talk about technology quite a lot on this programme because I'm both fascinated by it and terrified of it. The dust is settling now on the Grok controversy, where X's AI tool manipulates photos of real people and removes their clothes. Another concern, though, is growing around wearable technology. Meta glasses have been used to film people without their consent, and concerns have grown over how they're used to infringe privacy. And I wear glasses. I haven't always worn glasses, but I certainly always wear them now since I hit 40. Gone. But how do you know I'm not filming you? How do you know that when we meet in the street that these aren't Meta glasses? The technology now is getting so good that they've got deals with Ray-Ban and other glasses manufacturers. They're going to be indistinguishable before too long. So what do we do about privacy? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Ant Morse, futurist, AI advisor and the chair of one of the largest UK innovation forums. Good to talk to you again, Ant. Look, you're a glasses wearer as well. We're going to be deeply suspicious in a year or two.
Absolutely. Hi, Petrie, and thanks for having me on again. And yeah, as a glasses wearer, I have both options. So I have regular glasses, but I also have the Meta glasses as well. So
they don't look that different.
No, this is the thing. It's a very similar technology or style device that we wear. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to distinguish between the two, as you see.
So basically, we're not going to be able to. Right, that is it. I mean, I wouldn't know that they were Meta glasses. Mine look a bit odd anyway, so they could be Meta glasses. So it is now. We are just on a trust system here. We just trust somebody not to film us.
Indeed, yeah, and you may be able to see this if I just hold it up. But the privacy protection of these technology is improving all the time. So you'll see the little blinking LED light at the side here. That's informing us that we're recording. So if you were wearing these in the street and recording somebody, then they would be able to see this. The problem is that with all technology, no sooner do we bring out a great innovation that somebody finds a way to shortcut it. So the cases that you've seen in the press and news today are where people have either not been aware what the flashing light means, or somebody's quite neatly removed the LED or blocked it in some way. So it's very difficult for people to be aware. And as you say, they look very similar to a regular pair of glasses, slightly bigger in design. But if we fast forward,
those are Ray-Bans, right? That you were showing. I won't ask you how much they cost, but Ray-Bans, right? They come in all different shapes. And so I used to have some big Ray-Ban glasses. You wouldn't know. It could just be a style thing, right? So how do we protect ourselves? Because I did read that this flashing light can now be circumvented. And by the way, I used to do that as a reporter in war zones. I used to cover up the light when I was recording surreptitiously. So I know it's part. We did it just with gaffer tape, but there are ways around these systems now. So what does that mean for privacy? Because you could be having a conversation with a friend and they're recording it. And you're divulging secrets, or you're saying terrible things about somebody, and that's the next thing, it's online.
Yeah, and this is the problem, and I think there's two parts to it, Petrie. There's the technology itself, and it's kind of a constant battle. No sooner do clever innovators bring out the technology, then somebody cleverly beats them, and then they update. So the providers, they're not intending to mislead us or encroach our privacy. They're bringing out useful technology, and it has some incredible use cases. But in the case of misuse, we're always going to be in this battle. So I don't think it's just about the technology, and I don't think it's about banning the technology at point, because we'll talk more about the positive use cases. For me, it's about awareness. This technology is coming at an incredible pace, evolving all the time, and people are wowed and impressed by new innovations, but not aware of how they work and what they do. So people that have been intentionally misled and filmed in the streets, as we've seen, plastered all over TikTok or wherever, we're probably not aware of it. So I think it's about keeping the controls on technology, and I think big tech is doing what it can, and constantly, as I say, that's a constant and ongoing battle. But also then doing the social awareness. And I was thinking about this earlier. Do we bring back those, information broadcasts? We did the Green Cross Code back in the day. Do we do one about smart glass to make people, more aware as to what this is doing? So a bit of technology, and we keep working on that, but also bringing that social awareness, just so people would question it.
But I mean, look, privacy is precious enough at the moment, and all it takes, like I said, is I mean, I'm thrilled that people want to wear glasses, right? Because we used to have the mick taken out of us if you wore glasses, so everybody wants to wear glasses now. It's great, but like I said, you can be at a restaurant trying to have a private conversation, or you're breaking up with your partner, or whatever it might be, and anyone in that room wearing glasses could have recorded it. And they could even use that, even if they don't plaster it all over the internet. It's fantastic for blackmail. It's fantastic for, damaging somebody's career, getting somebody cancelled. And I don't think it should be banned, because I know it has tremendous uses, particularly for people with sight issues, right? or hearing issues. It can be amazing for that. But it's still, what kind of safeguards can be put into a pair of glasses that just looks like a pair of glasses?
And again, I think this is the challenge that we face. We keep trying to evolve the technology, but I think this is about moving that kind of social awareness and, what is the recourse for making, films, movies about people without their consent. What action do we take further than that? The problem we have is that a lot of our policies and law is set around surveillance cameras like CCTV, or people holding a camera up and filming you.
Yeah, which is not illegal.
No, indeed. And
so
you
if
have
it's
a chance
not
to walk away.
illegal to do that to you, sitting
Yes.
with your partner, then
why is it with glass?
Why is it with glass? Yeah.
And I think it's about that choice. So I was in the gym the other evening, and they propped their phone up and they were doing some elaborate workout and jumping around, and clearly they were doing a social media feed, and I just kept out of the way. The last thing people want to see is me in gym wear, so I just kept out of the way of that shot. But interestingly, I had Meta glasses on, and no one was keeping out of my way. Now, I wasn't recording; I was just using them for audio, listening to music, and having a chat with AI. But interestingly, she was very visible with her use of social media and cameras and capture. I wasn't. So again, this is where it's that, how do we do this? And I think it's about building greater awareness. While we say that they're very difficult to distinguish, you can distinguish. If somebody was stood in front of you in these glasses, you would see the lens.
Right.
And I've had many people come up to me in the street and say, "How do you find the Meta glass?" So people are aware. The arms are slightly thicker. The technique, it's very similar in design, and it's progressing at pace, and will soon be indistinguishable between what is smart glass and what isn't.
Wow. I mean, I just think that, like you said, we've just all got to be aware of this. There is some rumours that this smart glass will replace mobile phones by 2030. So we've all got to get on board with this, and it's brilliant to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, Ant Morse, their futurist, AI advisor and chair of one of the largest UK innovation forums. Stay with me. Papers next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and coming up at midnight it is Talk Back, so it's your chance to do exactly that. The whole hour is being cleared out just so that you can have your say. And what I need to talk to you about, what I want to talk to you about, is this net zero stuff. So figures published last month by the National Energy System Operator NESO, the body responsible for running Britain's power network, suggested that the scale of investment needed to decarbonise this economy by 2050 is significantly higher than we first thought. There's a shock. Since everything is always significantly higher, isn't it, than we first thought, especially when it comes to government stuff. We're looking here at trillions. I mean, the real figure, which I find really even more interesting, is that nobody really knows the real figure, right? There's been guesswork of 4.5 trillion, 7.6 trillion, or 9 trillion. And we know by the time we get there, whatever number it is, it will have doubled. Just so you get an idea of how much a trillion is, because like I said earlier, all these numbers get floated. Oh, it's a billion here, it's 100 billion, or it's a trillion. Nobody really knows. We all go, oh, what does that even mean? It's not even in our world, is it? It's not even a number we ever have to consider worrying about. On the average UK income of £35,000 a year, it would take you 128 million years to earn £4.5 trillion. 128 million years. I mean, I plan to live a long life, but boy, I don't think I want 128 million years. Can you imagine? But anyway, I want to know if you back this. Are you in? Are you all in on the net zero thing? I mean, we know what it's going to take, right? We know that we're going to all have to have heat pumps. We're going to have to probably not fly ever again, or have carbon credits. Something like that would be the only way it would work, wouldn't it? Driving, you have to go electric. They're getting rid of diesel cars. You know, just to get to balance that net zero. And actually, at the end of the day, if we're the only ones that are net zero by 2050, there's a couple more countries that have set that target. What difference is it going to make anyway? Because the rest of the world isn't net zero. So are you prepared to spend what it is you're being asked to spend in order to achieve this? 24 years, that's all we've got, right, to get down to net zero. I can't see it happening, but maybe I'm just too sceptical. Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And you can text me as well. Your message to 87222. Put the word talk up front and it comes through to this studio. So that's going to be the conversation. I really want to hear from you on this. If you're bought into this, if you're 100% in, or whether you just think it's just too expensive. By the way, this works out, right? I often talk about defence budgets, right? Because that's my wheelhouse, right? That's my interest. So we're currently spending around 2%, 2.5% on defence of the country's economy. This net zero is 10%. I think I'd rather we spent a bit more on defence right now than 10% of the British economy, 10% on net zero. But there's not going to be any point having net zero if we don't spend more on defence, frankly. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in as well. So there we go. Those are the numbers. I'd like to hear your views. So do give me a call. With me in the studio to discuss this and other things. Lots of transport stuff around, actually.
Thankfully, yes.
Thankfully, you actually are going to sound interesting, my friend.
One day.
Woo-hoo.
And maybe today is that
maybe
day.
Today, this is the day. It's Ed Wiseman, of course, transport and travel journalist. Let's just first of all address this. net zero, and just literally eye-watering, ridiculous amounts of money. And like I said, people throw trillion.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
We forget how big a billion is.
Yes,
and
exactly.
a trillion is bigger.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy to forget that it's just a vast amount of money. That it's an unfathomably big project as well.
Yeah.
I accidentally know a little bit about it. It's completely no fault of my own. I did actually learn some things. I run a small magazine called European Energy Innovation. So unbeknownst to you and your producers,
I did not know that.
That's part of my freelance gig. I actually am relatively well informed.
My producer's like, why didn't you tell us?
No, exactly. Just going through her notes, just thinking, goodness me, this is. But you can pretend that you did that on purpose. I end up having to do quite a lot of work to do with the European net zero project as an outsider, as a complete Philistine who doesn't know any science and certainly doesn't know how big a trillion is. I do actually. I have to talk about this in my articles, and there is a lack of knowledge as just to how big the project is. And I, as an outsider, am only just starting to appreciate how every industry is going to have to spend a fortune to even get close. And you've mentioned EVs, you've mentioned planes, you've mentioned, the stuff that we kind of know about recycling, but think about any industry and there is fossil fuels just embedded into it. Yeah. Just like steel, you have to use fossil fuels. Just you could name anything pretty much, and it runs somewhere along the line. It runs on coal or oil or gas. And the amount of work that it's going to take to shift the needle.
But is it even possible? I mean, we hear all the time about how we're having to switch off huge banks of windmills because the wind is too windy.
Yeah.
And we're paying these wind farms £1 million a day or something, curtailment fees, like we used to pay farmers not to grow crops. If there's too much wheat, we would say, right, don't grow any wheat for a year. So, and we would pay them for that. Yeah. So it's the same thing now with energy, but that doesn't make me feel confident. If it's either too windy or not windy enough, or if it's too hot and not hot enough, it's the wrong kind of sun or there's no sun, it doesn't fill me with confidence.
No, it's a bit of a nightmare out there. And I think one of the problems that the industry has is that it's very easy to talk about these wonderful wind turbines, these wonderful solar panels, as if they're just going to pay for it themselves and they'll be fine. As we found out in Spain, in southern Europe, at the start of this year, I think it was, there was the blackout, variously blamed on lots of different causes. But grids are quite sensitive, and the reason we have curtailment is because we don't really have the capacity to feed in all of this energy. We don't have the battery technology, and the regulations don't work particularly well. All of this is solvable. We can get there. And if we did have this hypothetical battery that we could just absorb all of the wind power, it would be great. We could just run on.
We don't. We don't have that battery technology. So why are we promising jam tomorrow when we don't even know that there's going to be enough fruit to grow the jam?
We're pretty sure there'll be jam tomorrow, but getting it to work financially is impossible, because this is a problem that's really happening in Italy. Not Italy is the one place that's not happening. Everywhere apart from Italy, the value of electricity dips below zero because of how abundant renewables are. You have a solar panel in the field, and there's just electricity falls into it, and it comes out, and it's so abundant that it's free. But when it's free, who pays for the infrastructure? Somebody's had to build that solar panel, and they're running at a loss because it doesn't generate any value for them. All of these things are kind of soft problems. We can fix them.
But like I said to a couple of my guests earlier, that what is never built into these net zero numbers is the cost of producing what gives us clean energy. That seems to be ignored. For example, electric vehicles alone. What do we do with the old batteries? Getting rid of stuff like that. Have we got enough minerals for all the batteries that we're going to have to build?
An absolutely brilliant
probably
example.
Not.
Yeah.
And the building of the car, which travels probably 3 or 4 times around the world.
Oh, at least.
In order to build these vehicles in the fair. They're not just built in one factory.
No,
the parts are coming from. It's all over the world.
And they're often built in China, which runs on coal primarily. So the factory will be running on fossil fuels. It's shipped over here on fossil fuels. It's paid for by Norway, which gets its money from selling fossil fuels. Yeah. It's so ingrained. So for now.
How do we even if by by some miracle by 2050 we've managed to balance the ingoing and outgoing carbons?
Yeah.
we're still not taking into account the cost environmentally of what we've had to do to make that happen.
Well,
and that should be part of the equation. There needs to be more honesty involved. If you buy an electric vehicle, all that does for the environment is not produce emissions for the miles that it's on the road. The emissions it's created already will take you 20, 30, 40 years to repay.
Potentially. I mean,
so why aren't we being told this?
Well, there is still some value in not having the emissions in your town.
I agree, but there's got to be more honesty on
Well,
it.
there's no transparency. I think they do know. They talk about well-to-wheel emissions. They talk about all sorts of different ways of establishing how much energy has been used building a car. But realistically, we are going to have to just use oil and coal to build the first chunk.
What about disposing of the car?
That's a complete disaster as well. They're getting better at it. They are getting better at it. I think they are being able to use batteries for much more innovative things than just paperweights, which is kind of how it was at the beginning.
The heck of a stack of papers.
Exactly. Well, Nissan was doing some quite interesting stuff towards the beginning. The life cycle is becoming, we're with now 3 model cycles into the Nissan Leaf. I think it's the 3rd generation Leaf, compared to sort of the 8th or 9th generation Golf. So it's
I used to quite fancy a Leaf.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're fine. I mean, they came out in 2011 and they were revolutionary. It's such a recent thing. I think that's the other thing we need to remember. That it's brand new technology. Internal combustion's been around for well over a century, but it's been within my career as a car journalist that electric cars have become popular. In 2009, when I started, the UK bought 55 electric cars, just 55. And now that's roughly how many they sell in like a morning. It's so different. It's a completely different world to how it was.
Will they ever be affordable there? I mean, if we're
they're getting there.
There's got to be the second-hand market. Hasn't
There's
it,
the second-hand market. Thankfully, they do depreciate quite rapidly, which is good news, depending on whether you're trying to sell one or buy one.
Become
not as much as they used to. I mean, it depends. Generally speaking, no, they should last for 100,000 plus miles. I don't think it's the case anymore that a diesel engine will outlast an EV just as a matter of course. There are loads of EVs that have done six-figure mileages. A lot will depend on how you drive it and if you're ragging it everywhere and charging it rapid. There are some factors that can affect it.
But I mean, even setting up the infrastructure to deal with the number of electric vehicles they want on the road is going to cost us over $1 trillion.
Oh yeah.
And you can't have a situation where, I mean, already it's not for me because I will not wait 40 minutes to refuel my car. I'm not doing that.
That's the other thing. In China, we're talking about this from a very British perspective and to an extent European. In China, they're recharging in 7 minutes. That's already there. It's already happening.
Full recharge.
Full recharge.
That's all right.
10 to 90, 20 to 80.
As long as I don't have to hang around at a petrol station.
No, exactly. I mean, that's about the length of time it takes to have a cigarette, go to the loo, maybe
Who smokes at a petrol station?
Electric car doesn't matter, does it? You can think about that. Think about the future.
Well, I don't smoke.
No.
That's
Well, you should buy an EV.
Maybe I can start.
Move
smoking.
to China, start smoking. But no, in China, it's all of these problems, or a lot of these problems, are beginning to be solved. And I mean, I have to drive a lot of EVs for work, and it is getting to the point where they are comparable in usefulness pretty much across the board. But as you say, it's going to cost so much to build the infrastructure, not just for cars. Very easy to just think about cars, but trucks. The amount of juice they need from the grid is vast.
And also, you can't have a situation where the grid goes down because the windmills have been switched off and there isn't the battery storage of things, and you're waiting to charge your car.
Thankfully, they stop things from going wrong before they do. Generally speaking, in this country, we have quite a stable grid, but they do that by curtailment. They have lots of tricks up their sleeves, but at the moment, there just isn't the capacity to.
But that's because we've also got oil and gas and in the system.
Well, they work quite well.
If we're looking at reducing the amount of that in the system, then the system becomes more volatile because it's only renewables, or it's 80% renewables.
This is a fascinating and a vast subject, and I'm sure you need to be taking a break anytime soon. But there is all the way down to the inertia of a turbine, which keeps the grid working properly, all the way up to the regulations that define curtailment and how much these wind farms get paid for not generating electricity. Everything needs working out, but we are quite we've only just started really
Can we do it in 24 years?
No. I mean, we can try. I think the pace of change is pretty phenomenal. When you look at how things were 10 or 15 years ago, none of this was possible. You know, we have vast gigawatt-size wind farms in the sea now, and that was. Yeah,
and floating windmills.
All sorts of stuff. And when I was a kid, that was space age. They had one turbine somewhere in Denmark as a demonstration that it could work. And now you look out and you see the little red flashing lights. It happens so quickly. It will happen. It's if you just look at the technology that we have now.
But we need 100 years, right?
No, less than that. I reckon in my lifetime. I think 100 years would be pessimistic. Also, I mean, notwithstanding the possible threat of thermonuclear Armageddon, which we haven't discussed yet, but I'm sure we'll get onto. I think there is so much appetite for this change. There are so many reasons to make the change.
But is there the appetite from my listeners and viewers who are living hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, worrying about if their gas boiler breaks and they're going to be forced to do something really expensive? Or I've got lots of people who are saying, I can never afford an electric car. I don't think I could ever afford an electric car.
I think you will be at some point. They've come down in price a lot, and if they keep coming down in price, I drove the Dacia Spring, which is the cheapest one you can get. I like it.
How much?
14 grand starts at. It's a 4-seater. It's quite slow.
14 grand.
14 grand, 1.4. It's brand new. You want to pay 17 grand for the slightly better model that does.
Is that just a bit rattly?
It just feels like a very old-fashioned car. You'll get into it and you think, oh yeah, I had one of these in the 80s because it's electric. They're great. They're a good little runabout. But that's the pace of change that we're talking about, because when the Leaf came out in 2011, it was 32 grand or something. Yeah,
it was a fortune.
Which was a lot of money. It was twice as much as a Polo.
If I have an electric car, I'd want to stick to the Mini, and that's about 35.
They're expensive.
Grand.
They are expensive, but you end up buying a Chinese one, because you can buy a BYD Dolphin or whatever they're called.
Does it look like a Mini?
No, it looks like somebody has just taken the bang average of every single hatchback that's ever been made and kind of melted it down.
See, I suit a Mini.
You do suit a Mini.
I look like I'm a Mini driver.
You do suit a Mini. I think that works, and I think you should hold on to that.
I'm going to hold on.
And that's a really good reason for not buying it.
It is a really good reason that I just suit.
But it works. But you're right. You're completely right that people are understandably quite suspicious of and sceptical of, and worried, because this is not fundamentally something that should be passed just to consumers. These are vast decisions.
Absolutely, and the consumers already, people are worried about losing diesel off the forecourts in 4 years' time, and that people have got diesel cars and they last a long time and they don't.
And they kind of work on the motorway. There's lots going for it.
It takes their choices away from them.
Exactly,
it becomes the preserve of the rich.
And there's a lot of fines. There's this perception. I mean, this is what Greenlash is all about, right? There are lots of people who quite understandably feel as though these policies are being thrust upon them in an exploitative or not particularly sympathetic way, when meanwhile in Shenzhen there is a coal power plant that every second belches out more than
we could produce in 10 years.
In a lifetime.
Yeah.
So I think it's a shame that so much policy and so much discussion of policy focuses on whether you're rinsing out your mushroom pot before you put it in the recycling or not, when actually it is
much bigger.
It's so far above the policies.
They need to have bigger conversations with us and trust us with the information.
They do have these conversations, but
we're not in the room.
We're not in the room, no.
Right, we've got to take a quick break.
We do.
But we will be back in just a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you and with me, Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist. Let's have a look at the papers. The Times newspaper, New Starmer U-turn.
Another day.
Another day, another U-turn. Now, listen, this one I am thrilled with because I was so furiously against this and urged people to sign the online .gov petition to get rid of the idea that we have digital IDs. And I think there was such a backlash, not from us. He doesn't give a jot about a backlash from us, but his backbenchers who seem to rule the roost. Government sources said last night that this would instead be optional. When the cards are introduced in 2029, workers will be given the choice of using other documents to verify their identity, like we do already.
Yeah.
Like you have to produce a passport if you want a job.
For example, one of the ones.
I've had to do that.
Yeah, and driving licence for everything else kind of works.
Yeah, it works. I don't want a digital ID. I'm glad that this is gone.
It's a complete fiasco waiting to happen as well.
Yeah, and it was also a lie. It's not going to make any difference to the black market.
Not the slightest bit. No, I think this was really interesting in that it unified so many people in being opposed to it.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of policies, even the winter fuel payments had some supporters when they cancelled that. And across the board there was uproar, but generally speaking, there were, every single one of Starmer's terrible policies has had some cheerleaders, but this was apart from, I assume, Palantir or whoever was going to make money.
Probably Palantir.
So whoever was going to make money off it was keen.
There was also rumours, wasn't there, that it was Tony Blair's son had a technology company that was going to be largely responsible for these compulsory ID cards. Tony Blair's always tried to. It's always a Labour government. It's always a socialist government that tries to bring. It tries to bring in these identity cards. This authoritarian.
No, completely. And a digital ID as well. It's going to be a disaster.
Pointless.
A complete disaster.
A lot of countries have ID. We know that, but they're usually paper. I had to carry one in Germany all the time when I was living there, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, Germany has a wildly different approach to privacy.
Yes.
Compared to here. And there's a reason why the infrastructure is there, the social and regulatory infrastructure is there, that means that there are checks and balances in place.
There have to be.
Whereas we don't have any.
No.
I mean, Germany does a lot of things a lot better than we do, as you're aware.
It does sarcasm.
It does sarcasm eventually.
A lot better than we do.
People think that the Germans don't have a sense of humour. We just don't get it.
Yeah, I love them.
You have to really listen for it.
Oh, they are funny.
But it's there.
I spent years living there. I cried with laughter every day.
They're funny. They're a hoot.
Lovely. I love them.
But there are so many things that Germany does that we should not.
Yeah.
They sell beer in McDonald's in Germany. Let's not import that policy. I like lager. I like McNuggets. But
I wouldn't mind a Grüner beer in a McDonald's.
Would you want to share a McDonald's with? Yeah.
Well, you do anyway, don't you? A lot of people get drunk before they go in.
Oh yeah, good point. Good point. There is that. At
the end of the evening.
Yeah.
Leicester Square. The McDonald's there on the corner.
Are you often in Leicester Square of an evening?
Not anymore.
No,
not anymore.
It's been a while.
I used to work there.
Yeah. Just around the corner.
Yeah. They're all drunk anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Perhaps it wouldn't shift the needle.
Yeah.
But the point stands. I think that Germany can do this stuff and we can't. But it's very interesting that sort of across generations there was widespread condemnation of this as a plan, scepticism that it could work, cynicism that it would just be billions of pounds funneled towards shadowy companies.
Yeah, who would have way too much information.
Yeah, and a real sort of lack of clarity on what you might be able to achieve.
Yeah, but also I think that what unified people behind not wanting these IDs was not so much the privacy issue, which was my issue, but was the lie that was told, that was so blatant and so stupid.
Yeah.
This will curtail the boat.
Yeah.
We knew it wouldn't.
No.
It's stupid. We all knew he was lying.
Yeah.
And I think that made people
it's
go,
such a
get
bad
stuffed.
Look. And I think that's the thing with a lot of this sort of authoritarian overreach.
Yeah.
They're sort of trying to find a justification for it. but I think everybody's heard it all before.
We've all heard it all before, and it's just over.
It's going to stop migrants. It's going to stop terrorism. It probably won't.
Yeah, of course it won't. Yeah, of course it won't. We were told that with CCTV hasn't stopped anything. Right, the other story on the front page, which is absolutely horrifying, is Irfan Soltani, who's 26 years old, a young man who is set for execution by hanging, I think, by Iran's regime tomorrow. The first in response to the nationwide protests after he was charged with waging war against God. All of these Iranian people are, in my view, extraordinarily brave people. I mean, there are thousands, they think up to 6,000 now, maybe more, have been killed by this regime, by the IRG. But this young man is set to be hanged. I mean, the global condemnation, if that is in any way made public, will be...
Well, they've already killed 2,000 people,
maybe even 6,000. They're saying it's 6,000 to 10,000. I mean, they just don't know. But yes, but there's a difference, I think, to being shot in a riot situation or in a protest situation, to being purposefully hanged.
Yes,
on the streets of Tehran.
A very different message.
It sends a very different message, and the charge is waging war against God.
That's quite a...
Which is a really weird... well, it is an Islamic State, isn't it? So, that'll be the argument. But I wonder what... I mean, I just hope it just... I mean, that young man, I can't even bear it.
Well, it does make you wonder. It does make you wonder. A lot of regimes do stumble and then fall in quite a sudden and dramatic manner. Do you think this will happen to the Ayatollah? Is that something?
I do. Well, they all fall, actually. Yeah. They all fall. Any totalitarian state will eventually fall. They all do. It's historically proven. It's not even like it's guesswork. This is a revolution. This isn't a protest. This is the entire country. And I do think this is it for the Ayatollah and the mullahs. I really do, because this feels very, very different.
But what makes it different to the last sets of protests and the general...
It's bigger.
And the weakening?
It's bigger. It's bigger, and also they're not just calling for one thing. They're calling for the regime to go.
Yeah.
That's the basic difference here. So this is about getting rid of the Ayatollah. And I think the Ayatollah, and you can tell because they double down on the lies, that I think that him and the mullahs know that this is not going to stop.
Yeah.
They're not going to stop it. They're not going to stop it by killing their way out of it.
Do you think that he will run away to Moscow?
Russia, yeah.
You think he'll go to Moscow?
Well, there's already planes been going in and out of Tehran, Russian planes, probably thieving gold.
Yeah, I do wonder.
Well, that's what happened in Syria,
lots of stuff's going
with Bashar al-Assad.
But do you think that this is an extension of the fairly slow drip of youth movements in Iran, where secularization and there've been lots of...
It's the young leading this, which is really impressive, young men and women, and we've seen young people rising in South Korea, for example. That was the young people who rose in South Korea against their president, prime minister, which one, and got them removed. These young people, this is their fight. They want their futures back, and for people who've already spent their future on a totalitarian or Islamic state, there's nothing much in it for them. But young people are fighting for their future, and I have undying respect for every single one. And I feel the same way about the people of America at the moment as well, because the irony of this is, Trump saying, we will support you, help is on its way, and I'm thinking, well, have you seen your own country, mate, where your secret police service, ICE, shot a woman in the face, and we've all seen the video, right? I mean, she wasn't attacking anybody. And the irony, he keeps saying, save the name of the killers and the abusers, they will pay a big price. Make sure that you keep going. And it's like, what? And the words the Ayatollah is using, saying these are all terrorists and blah, 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 same words that Donald Trump is using against the protesters in America, saying that they're all terrorists, left-wing lunatic terrorists. So for me, the parallels are achingly embarrassing. But I wonder if Trump will actually do anything about it.
I mean, he sort of has been threatening to for multiple days.
Yeah.
But
I think that if this young man gets hanged...
Yes, I wonder.
And
but then it's a lot of things just get lost in the noise. Things that you would expect
I can't bear it. I mean, what kind of regime does that? I mean, it's disgusting.
They've been doing this for ages.
I know.
They've been doing this day in, day out. I think
I know, that's the thing.
It's almost arbitrary when one person becomes
do you know what? It's because we can see his face.
We can see his face.
We know his name. We know his age.
And he looks like an English bloke. He looks like because he looks like anybody. He's wearing a puffer jacket.
Yeah. It could be my son.
Listeners can't see him, but he's got an ear piercing. He looks like he could be like a sort of.
He could be my son.
Exactly.
He's got the beard and same sort of age.
Yeah.
And I think that actually sometimes change comes down to that one person.
Yeah, it's a dice roll, he
could be the reason that his country becomes free.
Yeah, and he's the one that will have the statue.
And he's the one that has to pay the price.
But it's the same with Good in Minnesota. It's the same with when you think about George Floyd, all these sort of household names that became totemic of injustice and the sort of the quest for justice, even though they are just one of many thousands of people
who die.
So it would be obviously it's a tragedy, but it's really interesting how that dynamic plays out. And talking about trillions and billions, it's very difficult to imagine 2,000, 9,000 people dying in one weekend in the city.
Unbelievable.
Just as an outsider, I don't really have a space in your head for that.
No, you can't.
Same with Sudan. You just can't get your head around the bloodshed.
When it comes to those sorts of numbers, you just can't. I mean, I certainly know that a mass grave with 70 bodies in it is unfathomably big.
But when you time that by
100, then it becomes. I can't even.
And sometimes it takes a photo of one bloke in a.
That's what it takes. And the tragedy of that.
Yeah.
I can't even look at him. It's making me so sad. Right, we've got to take a quick break, but we will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here, and with me is Ed Wiseman, a travel and transport journalist. Let's quickly do the Express. Elderly living in poverty could exceed 2 million. The total number of older people living in poverty risks going over 2 million. OAPs are taking drastic measures to make ends meet, skipping meals, taking fewer baths and showers, as well as cutting their electricity use. Is this their heating and eating?
It's only going to get worse as the UK gets older and there isn't enough money in the pot
Well, the pensions, I mean, they're amongst the lowest in Europe, but they're, you know, they are protected at the moment, the triple lock and things like that.
But where does the money come from? What do we do to make money? What do we sell?
Yeah.
Increasingly, not a great deal.
Not a great deal. We don't make anything, do we?
So it might be notionally triple locked, but
that's not going to last.
Is that, talking of things that will happen in our lifetimes, do you think the wheels will come off?
Yes.
The pension fund in our lifetime, do you think? Is there a plan?
Definitely, no, there isn't a plan, of course not. No, I don't think the triple lock will go. It's unaffordable. And there is no plan apart from taking money off old people when they die.
Taking money off old people when they die, and more tax for people, and generally lots of wildly unpopular policies. Wildly unpopular policies
that will see us all broke, let alone old people. The other story that is on the front, this has been bubbling for a while, this is Emily Attack, whose mother is Kate Robbins, actually, the comedian. And people have been attacking her for her weight, because she's lost a lot of weight. When are we going to stop fixating on women's bodies?
It never went away, did it?
Let them be.
If they want
to be fat, let them be fat. If they want to be thin, let them be thin. It's not worthy of comment.
I guess this is an Ozempic. This must be an Ozempic.
We don't know. She hasn't said. I mean, it could be ill health.
But I assume that's what people are saying. I assume that's what it's about. Because there is a taboo around fat jabs.
Well, there's a taboo against once being fat and being popular and then becoming thin, because then fat people think you've left them behind, and they feel, you know, I thought you were body positive. Yeah. Let her be the body she wants to be.
But there was a period when we stopped doing that, I think, wasn't there? About 10 years ago, it was a real taboo to be openly critical of...
constantly talking about women's bodies?
I mean, it's a whole industry, isn't it? It's a whole industry.
Does it matter?
Don't talk about men's bodies.
No. And does it matter if she used as a... Who cares? Right? If she's happy, let her do her thing.
I must admit, I don't know a great deal about her, but I think...
She was in Rivals.
Yes.
A very voluptuous girl. Beautiful girl. But if she wants to be thin, let her be thin.
That's completely fine. No, I think it's very interesting that it's still mainstream. It's on the front of actual papers. It's not just in the glossies. It's not just sort of in the chat mags.
And this is actually going to be a comment by Vanessa Feltz, who's had her own battles with weight.
Yes.
And she's certainly, I know she's had a couple of tummy... gastric band things.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And I think now she's openly on the jabs, and she looks great.
Yeah.
She's lost a load of weight. She seems a lot happier.
Yeah, fine, great.
So what?
Everyone's a winner.
Yeah, exactly.
Apart from internet weirdos.
Apart from internet weirdos and Weight Watchers, because they've gone bust. But anyway, the Daily Telegraph. Help is on its way. What does he mean by help? Tweets. Yeah.
Well, he posts on Truth Social, actually, doesn't he? He's.
Oh yeah, he's got his own network, hasn't he? And this water company at the bottom here. So crisis hit water boss says bills will have to rise. What a shock!
Yeah,
again, Ed.
It's happening. It's pretty predictable.
They mess up. We pay for it.
No, that's. I think there's a lot of. That's going to run and run, isn't it? Talking of infrastructure,
unlike the water in Kent.
Exactly, unlike Tunbridge Wells water. Nobody really wants to spend the cash on building proper infrastructure for water, building the infrastructure for electric cars.
No, because they're taking all the profits out and giving it to their shareholders.
Yeah, exactly. There's none left to actually sort of lay some pipe. There's plenty of that coming. I think that will be the theme of the rest of this decade: crumbling infrastructure.
Yeah, because we've never put any money into it.
Or we haven't since a long time ago. Because we did. That was our thing.
Well, because they were state-owned and state-run,
but
now
even
they're
before
private.
then, Britain had the best infrastructure.
Yeah.
We went to town on railways, on sewers. Everything was absolutely top class. And then we rested on our laurels. That's why Germany works, because they did it later.
Yeah. And they kept doing it.
And they kept doing it.
Talking of trains, Labour promises a new rail link for the north, but not until 2030. There's an awful lot going to happen in 2030, it seems. Rachel Reeves will today unveil plans for new rail lines and upgrades between major northern cities, but with just 1.1 billion in firm funding. Well, that'll do about a mile.
That will do, that's as much as you can sort of lay in your back garden. That's sort of 20 feet. No, that should do it. It won't do the whole amount. That'll do one Bat Bridge and...
Where do they need the trains up north? Isn't it between Liverpool and Manchester?
Well, all of the north needs trains. So there are lots of projects
Which is
that are ongoing.
ironic, because isn't that where the steel industry was? And you'd have thought they'd have put trains there first.
I think they put a lot of trains there, then they took some trains away. I mean, Leeds, for example, huge place, terrible rail network. It's fascinating how bad it is. And again, not to wang on about how good Germany is, but like when you do go to a German town, you'll have a tram, really good metro, rail, intercity rail, the fast intercity, the slow intercity, good buses, etc.
The trains were remarkable.
I think Leeds is
cheap.
I think Leeds is the largest town in Europe that doesn't have a tram. I think that was certainly the case at some point recently, just because they haven't bothered. It's hard to overstate how bereft the north is of good infrastructure, and we in London we're fine. We have pretty much everything. It's not great. It's quite expensive, but
it's very expensive, and it's falling apart.
And it's falling apart. But I mean, when you look at what they are doing stuff.
And we just got the Elizabeth line, didn't we?
We just got the Lizzie line, and we do. I mean, we do generally have quite good buses. That the fares are capped. They're reasonable. There are lots of things going on up north. The Transpennine. This is on top of the Transpennine route upgrade and loads of other stuff, which is quite.
But if it's not going to start till the 2030s, when are we looking at it being finished?
Oh, ages.
10 years?
Yeah, maybe.
So we're looking at 2040, 2050.
Well, I think you have to do it. The second best time to start is now, and I think this is kind of one of the problems. What you describe is one of the main components of the inertia that we face. Is sort of, well, why bother? Because it just is going to take ages. Because we take ages to do anything as a nation. Thinking not only so many years ahead, but so many political cycles ahead.
Well, that's the thing, it's the political cycles, isn't it? But there was that saying, wasn't there, that true humanity is somebody who plants a tree knowing that they will never benefit from it. And that's the same with these big infrastructure projects.
That's what we should be doing, and that's what Brunel was all about, and that's what, looking back through history, loads of people have had that mindset to some extent. To do something that they know that will benefit other people. But crucially, it's all very well talking about these things, and I've got the embargo release here. I think it was only about an hour ago that it was released. I think it's all very well talking about new things. It's very exciting, but what we consistently fail to deliver in this country is maintenance of the old things. We have had such great infrastructure, but without the upgrades and the really boring workaday tweaks that make it functional, there's no point just cutting the ribbon on new thing after new thing. You have to commit. And whose fault is that? Government's fault? Is that the short-sighted government? They always say that dictators actually are usually quite good at planning large infrastructure projects because they get it done in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years they're alive. The Italian train network, for example, great example. The German Autobahn network, lots of stuff is sort of 30s Germany that still is kind of kicking about today. The Autobahn is a 30s idea, and I don't think that's necessarily a vote in favour of those kinds of regimes. No, but there is something about a democracy that happens on 4-year cycles that really does stop long-term planning. That's why I've always believed that things like the NHS should be outside of the political cycle. Which they are a bit. That it should just be there's a body of people who look at the very long-term planning for the health service. You want more technocrats, basically, for those very specific things. But then when you do it for the NHS, what else do you do? Do you do that for defence as well? Do you do that for critical industries? At what point do you say, you know what, I'm going to give this to some random junior minister? I'm going to give it to somebody who will actually do something. Yeah. As opposed to politicians who just talk about doing stuff. That's kind of the problem, because there's a lot of guff, isn't there? A lot of guff. Yeah. A lot of guff. Talking of which, the Sun newspaper, Guinness up by 4p a pint. Some tipples to be weaker. The Inn Reaper, they're calling Rachel Reeves. It's a good headline. What pub was she allowed in to do that? Because they're being banned from pubs now, aren't they, Labour? That's getting a pint of 6X. It's an old picture. And that's Dark Star. That's Brighton, isn't it? Huh? I reckon somewhere in Sussex. Hophead. They brew that in Brighton, I think. I wonder if this is going to be the nail in her coffin. Pubs. Could be. Do you think
It really could be, because she's made a right hash of it. I mean, let's be honest. And there's about to be another U-turn, isn't there? And I just think this government is an embarrassment.
But I still think it's better than the last one.
Well, it's not much of a measure, is it?
No, it's not much of a measure, but I keep trying to remind myself that it's still a step in the right direction.
Talk about low bar.
It's a very low bar. But
low
I mean,
bar.
it was a sort of political nanosecond ago that Liz Truss, Rishi,
God,
when you think about what did happen in very recent memory,
we all forget, don't we?
It's very easy to forget. So no, I think we should I guess be grateful, thankful, at least appreciative that it isn't the dying embers of the Tory administration.
Yeah, I think gratitude is on a scale.
Gratitude is probably a strong word, but I think you do have to contextualise this against the fiasco that was playing out only a...
Oh yeah, I mean, look, because the news cycle moves on so quickly, we all move on to the next thing, don't we, and forget how bad it was. No, it's terrible, but just because something is slightly less terrible than the last terrible thing doesn't really fill us with joy. Quick break, but Ed and I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me, Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist. The Mirror going big, as you would expect it to, on the Northern Powerhouse Pledge. This is set to make Labour look like Labour's doing what Labour does, and that is helping the northern workers. Northern Powerhouse Rail will finally deliver real change for millions in the north of England. Keir Starmer will announce today. The £45 billion programme, delayed several times by the Tories over more than a decade, will include new lines to Manchester and upgrades to services in West Yorkshire.
If it happens.
If it happens. Because it's been delayed by them as
Mr.
well.
Sama says people have been let down by broken promises.
Yeah, but this is already. I mean, he's not starting tomorrow. He's starting 2030. He's given himself a few years.
I just think
6 years. He won't even be in power by then.
No, somebody else's problem, somebody else's budget.
Exactly the point.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. It's difficult not to get stuck in that rut of just pre-disappointments.
I'm already disappointed
I think
for everybody up north. Because,
yeah.
But the thing is, northern people, incredibly down to earth and sorted, right? They know what's going on.
But his father was a tool maker. Do you not remember?
Yeah, his father owned a tool making factory, slightly different. But he, you know, all these northerners are up there now going, all right, believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
They know it's not going to happen. For a start, he's delayed it till 2030, so it's not for 6. They'll be out of power by then. It won't be. It's not going to happen. I'm so sorry, but you know that already. You're not stupid. But this is Keir Starmer thinking you are stupid. That we're all stupid. Right, the Daily Star. That's a very good headline, I've got to say. They've pulled it out of the bag with that one. Arctic troll. President posts pictures of him gazing at Greenland. Do you know, Donald Trump genuinely believes that Greenland is that big?
Yeah, he doesn't understand maps.
No. And he doesn't understand that he is, about 55 miles away from Russia? When he said we won't have Russia as a neighbour? Because he's obviously seen the globe flat. And Russia's over there, but of course, as it wraps round, it joins up.
It makes you wonder who's responsible for just turning the globe
just
very
showing
slowly.
him a globe.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he thinks Russia's right over. He keeps saying, "Well, it's so far away from us."
Yeah.
And I think it's about 55 miles.
Yeah, it's about that, right?
When it comes.
Do people swim? Do people swim it?
I don't know, but people can see Russia.
Yeah.
On a clear day.
There's the island in the middle, isn't there?
Yeah. So
fascinating quirk of geography.
Really.
Mind you, nobody lives in that bit of Russia, do they?
No, but it doesn't mean they can't.
People.
Doesn't mean they couldn't.
It's quite interesting, the idea that sort of Moscow and Washington are on. Sort of, they're the hubs.
Yeah.
And little do they know around the other side.
Around the other side, it meets up.
Yeah. Living in their igloos.
Yeah. But the map of Greenland, of course, which is the largest single island in the world.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Bigger than Australia?
Australia is not an island.
Go on.
It is considered to be I was going to say a state. What do I mean? Like Africa.
Continent.
A continent.
Is it? I didn't know Australia was a continent.
It's considered to be a continent.
Wow.
And so it's about the third the size of Australia, actually, Greenland.
Okay. Why is?
But it's the largest single island.
Why is Australia
in the world.
a continent?
I suppose because it is so vast, and it's considered a continent on its own.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. So Greenland, though, in these maps, because of the way these maps are drawn and have always been drawn, it looks at least 3 times bigger than it actually is. But it is still the biggest single island in the world. So there you go.
And has a lot of important minerals for the creation
has an
of
awful lot of
net
minerals.
zero things.
And he's posted a picture of himself looking out of those double doors to where the ballroom is going to be at the map of Greenland. But I was reading earlier, and I can't substantiate this, but I do believe that it is the truth, that he's asked the military to draw up a plan to take Greenland, the American military, and they've said that they would be illegal orders and that it has to come through Congress, which is unlikely to approve it.
Yeah.
So I can't. He's not going to do it. I don't think he's going to do it.
No, but it's set the cat among the pigeons. It's rattled the relationship with Europe irrevocably, and that's
without
what it was
a doubt.
meant to do.
Without
I
a
think.
doubt. Yeah. But if he did do it, if somehow he did manage to do it, and he's not a man that likes to back down, it would be a disaster. And it would be a disaster for him because, you know, we've got a lot of power over America. He doesn't see that.
No.
If we dumped all of our bonds, all the debt, all the American debt that we've bought, and Britain's one of the biggest holders of American debt, but the rest of Europe as well, if we all, and we would, the day after, say, right, well, you can have all your debt back, and that would collapse the American economy instantly. Would collapse the
Who
American
else holds
economy. China. China
No,
holds
but
a lot.
in Europe.
In Europe, every
Yeah, but who else is a big holder?
I think Germany.
What's Germany like?
I think Germany is quite a big holder. I know we are vast holder. I think all of the, but it would we would collectively just say, right, well, we're getting rid of America, and also American bases around the world would be closed. I mean, Germany has one of the largest American bases anywhere in the world, apart from in America itself, Ramstein, which is like a city on its own. And I visited Ramstein a few times. It's vast. It's like a little America. That would be, if they're no use to us in terms of NATO support, then all of these bases would be closed.
Well, that's also what would happen, isn't it, at the end of NATO, fundamentally?
Yeah, which would give succor to Russia.
Yeah, and then what would happen to Europe and what would happen to China? China wins, regardless,
China
doesn't
wins.
it?
Yeah. China wins, and Russia wins, actually. But you know, he said he's going to take it whether they like it or not. So there we go. Well, it remains to be seen. I'll try and dig in further into those numbers about the American military. But as far as I'm aware, they've said that it can't be done without congressional support, and they won't get congressional support. The Guardian is talking about help is on its way. I don't know. We don't know what that means. Also, The Independent, an incredible photograph there. I'm so proud of those people, I can tell you. The Metro, Russian captain did nothing to avoid you. Do you remember that story? That was a weird story,
I was reading about this earlier. It was very, very peculiar.
I think we were on air together actually when we talked about that.
When it was just happening. It's a really odd set of events.
Very strange.
I don't really understand what the implication is.
No, I don't either. North Sea catastrophe trial begins. The skipper alone on watch as his ship headed for disaster. The collision that killed a sailor was obvious for more than 30 minutes, so he's probably asleep. The other story I just want to look at here, it's on the front page of the Guardian. Alan Rickman. Do you remember when he died?
Yeah.
How many years ago do you think it was?
2. Was it like 10?
10.
Was it 10?
10 years.
10 years.
I can't believe that Alan Rickman died 10 years ago. I love Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
I've loved him as an actor for as long as I can remember. And this is Alan Rickman remembered on the front page of the Guardian. I fell in love with him on the spot. Apparently, the most wonderful man.
Yes, I've heard very good things about him.
Yeah, and a tragic loss to acting because he really was brilliant. I loved him so much. 10 years. I cannot believe it. I thought about 3.
I thought it was much more recent.
We were wrong. Ed Wiseman, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Transport and travel journalist. Back in just a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning to you. This is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and this is a talk back, and it is your chance to do exactly that, and that is to talk back, to be the conversation, to have your say, to share your views and tell me your stories. That's what this hour is, and there's nothing else here. There's no interviews. There's nothing. We've cleared the decks. It's just you and me, and just chatting through the stories, really. And the one I wanted to talk to you about is about net zero, which might at first seem a little bit dry, but I don't think it is, because I think I'm like you in believing what's the point. Now, listen, I'm not a climate change denier, right? I definitely, we know the climate's changing, right? It always has, and it always will. I also do believe that human beings, it would be naive, completely naive, to believe that what we do on this planet has no effect on the planet, right? That would just be naive. I think the jury's out as to how much, for me, how much we are impacting, but I'm fairly certain we do. Right, we have to. We're burning stuff where we got, all these cows with methane and all of that. So we know that we're having an impact. It would be silly just to go, oh, it's what have human beings got to do with it? Of course we have. It's a very delicate ecosystem, and we know that we have an impact on that. We know that we do. But I'm not convinced by this net zero drive. I think if it is to have any impact in the world, then it has to be the world that does it. And we've set this legally, when I say we, they, have set this legally binding target of being net zero by 2050. And what that means is basically to balance what we put out into the world as to what we take. Actually, it is quite complicated. So I just want you to listen to this, because you might not have been with the programme right at the beginning. So we got an energy analyst at the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit to explain what net zero is, and she does a better job of it than I could do. So here's Jess Ralston to explain.
Zero is about balancing the emissions that we produce with those that we take out of the atmosphere, and it's about balance. So it's a scientific concept to stop the worst impacts of climate change, which the public do back. And it's all about balancing the emissions that we put out with the emissions that we take out. So it's all about that balance and making sure that we achieve halting climate change and making sure that things don't get any worse, as we've seen across the world. But even in the UK, climate change is already having an impact. So farmers are having the worst harvests. Every year we hear about record heat, which impacts people with health conditions, amongst others. And of course, there's the detrimental impacts of floods and wildfires and things like that as well.
I mean, to me, when you say halting climate change, I can appreciate that if the globe is trying to achieve net zero, but it reminds me in the 80s of driving through areas that said this is a nuclear-free zone, and I would think, well, that's not going to make any difference when the bomb drops, right? Those were the days when we still believed that might happen. Does it make any, if we're net zero, how is that going to halt climate change? Because we're not a bubble.
Yeah, while it's true that the UK is a small proportion of the world's emissions, what the UK does matters, and that's because we pack a large punch for our size in terms of international credibility and getting other people to sign agreements and sign up to policies. I mean, take one example, our renewables auction scheme, the Contracts for Difference scheme. That's now being copied by many countries across the world because it was a successful scheme in getting renewables like offshore wind up and running. But what I'm really keen to talk about as well is the fact that, yes, net zero is a scientific concept to stop climate change, and it's the only one that we have in order to stop that happening, we need to stop producing emissions, right? But it's also even more so these days about energy security. And we look at what's gone on in the world just over the past few years. We've had the conflict in Ukraine, we've had conflicts all over the Middle East, we've now got Venezuela situation happening, and oil and gas prices have always been volatile, controlled by people we perhaps don't want to be in the pocket of, and they always will be volatile because we don't have any impact on those oil and gas prices.
Wouldn't we have more of an impact if we continued, though, to drill for oil?
Well, we have continued to drill for the past 14 years, and we've got a few weeks' worth of gas out of the North Sea. So what we do in the North Sea is so small now, it really doesn't make any difference to global prices, and we're subject to those global prices. We don't control the price. We're a price taker, not a price setter. So the Conservatives had a policy of getting all the North Sea oil and gas out, and it hasn't obviously made any difference because when the gas crisis happened, our bills shot up and we were all subject to that energy bill crisis, and the cost of living crisis is continuing because of that. So really, we don't have any control over that price, and we never will have control over that price. It's set by other markets and by other countries.
So that's just part of the conversation I had a little bit earlier. So I want to know if you are in full support of the drive for net zero, especially when we hear the utterly breathtaking sums of money that it is going to cost in order to get that done. So an SO spokesperson, listen to this. This is what's really got my goat. Spokesperson said that the proposed spending totals would ensure that the proportion of the British economy designated to energy costs would decline by half, from 10% today to between 5 and 6% by 2050. We spend, 2.5% on defence and currently 10% on these energy costs, right? So look, there's no doubt that renewables are the future. I can see that. I'm not stupid. The world will run out of oil at some point, and when it does, we're going to need an alternative. So we might as well start building that alternative now. I get that, but how are we going to do this in 24 years without it costing us an enormous amount of money as individuals? We already pay green levies, don't we, on our bills? They're going to increase. We've already been told that we're going to have to pay for a new electricity backup system and all of these, the grid. We're going to have to pay to update the grid. We've got 24 years to reach this target. How? Can it be done? Do you think it should be done? Tonya is in Devon. Morning, Tonya. What do you think?
Hi. Yeah, I think well, it's a big scam, but I'll tell you why. Number of strands to it. One is one of the ruses they make, and it's for control. But one of the ruses one of the things they say is things like, oh, it's the hottest day since records began, or something like that, or it's the windiest day since records began. Do you know when records began? Do you know the year records began?
It was somewhere in the 70s, wasn't it?
It was around 1800, so it's about 200 years.
Oh, was it in the 1800s? I thought it was even earlier than that.
Around 1800 itself, that's about 200 years ago, yeah?
Right.
So think about how long human beings have been on this planet, right, in terms of thousands and thousands of years, probably hundreds of thousands of years possibly, but even, so if you say the hottest day since record began, that's meaningless. 200 years ago is a blip.
It's nothing.
In time.
That's nothing.
It means nothing. It's like me saying, I haven't had a cup of coffee since I scratched my nose half a second ago. And it's a meaningless statement, okay? 200 years in our history is nothing. So hottest days, 200 means nothing in statistical terms, but it's a trick they use because it sounds the hottest day since records began.
Well, look, I think it's safe to say we can see that the climate is changing, right? We can see that. It's not beyond our intelligence to look out the window and to know that the climate is changing. But if you've watched any documentaries on the planet, which I happen to like watching, over billions of years, we've had 5 mass events that just wiped out almost the entire planet. Some of those are due to external forces coming in and blowing up the world. Others are to do with the climate changing and ice and blah blah, all of this kind of thing, right? So the climate has always changed. So we don't have the records to know whether this is part of a cycle or not.
Yeah, there's no proof that it's man-made. There's a correlation, but that doesn't prove causation. And it's always changed. They use the word climate change, means nothing because it's always changed. The other trick they use is, another one of the many tricks they use, is with the AI model, the computer models. So it's all about projection into the future. So it's all done by computer models. They come up with these projections, and they come up with, this could happen, these UN models, this could happen in the future. And they always pick the worst case scenario. So imagine, right, they pick, and this is countless computer models that are making these different models of what could happen in the future. And they pick the worst ones. So can you imagine if you were going to go out your door this morning and you sat there and you thought, what's the worst thing that could happen if I go out the door this morning? And you went through all the worst things that could happen. I mean, you could think, well, I could get eaten by a bear, I could, and you'd never go out, would you? Because it would just, you'd end up scaring yourself stupid because there's so many different scenarios. There's billions of different scenarios that could happen to you, right? They pick the worst of those, right? So what they're doing is that. They're picking the worst thing that could possibly happen in the future according to their computer models. Well, of course, that could happen, but how likely is it to happen? Statistically, do you see what I'm saying? So again,
I get it, but I'm sort of, I sit on the point of thinking, I think it would be incredibly dumb to think that we're not having some kind of impact on the planet that we live in, right? We clearly are. You can't pave over things, you can't, burn things, you can't, all of these things. We are definitely having an impact. How much of an impact? Nobody knows, I don't think, but I think we're definitely having an impact. And look, if we can reduce what we believe is our impact, brilliant. I think that is all to the good. Clean up the air, cleaner air is better, we know that. Cleaner water is better, we know that.
I disagree though that we're definitely having an impact on the climate to that extent.
But we're having an impact on the planet.
Oh, on the planet, definitely.
Yeah.
So definitely, yes.
So let's try and, if we're not going to say that climate change is human-made, as you say, causation and all that, and correlation, but we're not doing the best thing for the planet, right? We know that we're throwing away too much plastic. It ends up in the ocean. Yeah. It's killing ocean creatures, right? Let's do what we can about that. Let's not call it climate change. Let's call it cleaning up the planet.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all for cleaning up the plastic and all that. I think the problem we've got here is that, because plastic is one of the real problems.
Massive
problems.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's not real environmentalists and real environmentalists, and I'm a real environmentalist. I love my green. I love my wildlife. Real environmentalists care about water. That's the number one resource.
Number one. Yeah.
Right? They do care about fresh air, number one resource, but also would be absolutely cleaning the oceans of plastic. But how is what they're doing that? They're making it worse. Electric cars worse for the environment, or almost pretty worse if you think about long term and the batteries and all that. And this thing about carbon zero is that we don't have a perpetual motion machine yet. We haven't got a machine, a perpetual. What a perpetual motion machine is? One where you don't have any mess from the machine. In other words, so all our machines make mess. Now they claim, we're gonna carbon zero and we're gonna have a sort of balanced situation. Well, it's not happening because all our machines make mess. It doesn't matter if you make electric cars. It doesn't matter what you make. It makes a mess one way or the other. You make your wind turbine things. You have to create them. You have to produce them. It's all a mess, right? We create waste. We create waste.
Yeah.
And this is ongoing, and they haven't made it any better with what they're doing. They're just creating a different kind of waste, and in some cases, a worse kind of waste. So they're not real environmentalists. And don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with using wind power. If you can use it, great. But I mean, it's not going to work without. We still need the oil, right? So.
I completely, Tonya, I'm agreeing with absolutely everything you're saying. Because it is never explained that, get an electric car, it's great. no, the building of it is a catastrophe for the planet. The batteries are a catastrophe. The minerals, the damage that we're doing to the planet to take out the minerals we need for those batteries, the wars that will be fought, the lives that will be lost, all of those things is anti-human, right? So I completely agree with you on those points.
So you have to question, why are they doing it? If they're not doing it for the environment, and these aren't stupid people. I mean, these aren't really...
I don't know, they're banging the wrong drum as far as I'm concerned. If they were to say to the public, right, we've made a right mess of this planet, right? It is a dump. What we're going to have to do is spend trillions cleaning it, cleaning the oceans, cleaning the water, getting rid of it, making sure that packaging melts into nothing, and spending money for that. 100% support. I think they're banging the wrong drum.
Well, they're for control, because if you're an electric car, eventually you won't be owning your car, they'll be controlling it and they'll be switching you off. So that's what the electric cars are for. They're for control. They're not for anything to do with being green. I mean, if they really cared about green, the first thing they'd attack is and get rid of is factory farms. But although they speak that, they do nothing about it. The factory farms just get bigger and bigger and poison our environment. Our water companies are doing nothing to make our water situation worse. Our water situation, they don't care about the environment. So clearly, what is it about? It's not about the environment. It's about control. It's about taking it's about digital global control of this is where we're going. And the carbon zero is all part of that scam. And that is what it's about. That, in my opinion, and I have looked into it quite deeply, in my opinion, it's got nothing to do with the environment, because I really care about the environment. I love my wildlife. I love my green. I've got my hedges. I've got this, that, and the other. Everything I can do, and I try and be as less wasteful as I can. But I don't see these people. They're doing nothing, as far as I'm concerned, for real environmental issues.
I absolutely agree with you, and that is a real frustration for me, because, like I said, we have made an absolute mess of this planet. We've treated it like like some people treat their front and back gardens, dumping waste in it, right? And we all look down our noses at them and go, oh, look at them. We've done that to this planet. That's what we need to be doing, is cleaning it up, and that would gain so much support that we wouldn't be having these arguments. So I completely buy into everything you're saying, Tonya. Thank you very much indeed for calling. I've got to take a very quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. This is Talk, and it is Talk Back with me, Petrie, and I'm with you until 1 o'clock. And this is your opportunity to talk back, to do exactly that, to give me your views, to tell me what you think of stories that we picked. We're talking about the net zero and the costs of net zero, just been revealed. It is a lot higher than we even thought it was going to be, right? Which is of no surprise to me, because these costs always go up, don't they? They never come down. We never go, oh, it's much less. We go, oh, how lovely. No, it's always way, way more. And the real worry here is that nobody's really got a clear idea of how much more. We've been told of 4.5 trillion, 7.6 trillion and 9 trillion. Those are the numbers that I've been able to find just today as I was looking into this. So we're looking at a huge number, and it's going to come down to us. A lot of this expenditure is going to come down to us as we're forced to adopt a net zero lifestyle, and by that I mean, you know, getting heat pumps instead of gas boilers, or you know, getting an electric car as opposed to a petrol or diesel car, phasing out the diesel pumps at petrol stations in the next 4 years, so that you have to get rid of your diesel car. They'll do the same to petrol as well. You wait and see. They'll make sure that we have to abandon our petrol cars at some point. Driving will again, I think, become the preserve of the very rich, as it was when it first happened. So will air travel. All of those things in that we're going to have to change about the world that we live in order to reach net zero. And I was saying to Ed, actually, in one of the breaks, I think that we'll all be given carbon credits. And I think that was one of the reasons that the ID cards were being mooted, that we're given so many carbon credits we can spend in a year. So if you drive, that takes up X amount, and if you go on holiday, it takes up X more. So if you don't fly, like I don't tend to fly anymore, because I just spent so many of my years in an aircraft going places that I can't bear it any longer. But you know, a friend of mine who plans 3 holidays in a year could come to me and buy some of my carbon credits and say, look, can I buy them from you, because if you promise not to fly, and then I can fly on your credits. That is what I think the future looks like for us. And in order to reach things like net zero, they're pretty much going to have to implement that. So rich people will be able to buy carbon credits off poorer people, and people who travel a lot will have to buy carbon credits off people who don't travel a lot. Or you give up driving, or you do something else if you want to fly. That, I think, is going to be the future. Whether that is the future in the near future or not, I don't know, but I'm absolutely convinced that's the way the world is going. So I want to know if you support the changes that are coming for the sake of this net zero, I think, fantasy by 2050 in this country. Loads of messages coming in on this and phone calls, so I'm going to quickly read some messages. Seems to want to downplay the importance of domestic gas production to the UK and to give people the impression that we can thrive on renewables alone. We can't. Not by a long way yet, if ever. And that's from Gus in Aberdeen. I completely agree. Look, it's lovely. It's a great idea, and we're going to need it, right? Because these gas, oil, they're not going to last forever. One day they're going to run out, right? It's a finite resource. So we're going to need other resources, but not for a very long time. Let's make regenerative the main type of farming and rewild huge areas of land, all of which has huge benefit to carbon sequestration, but also, and more importantly, helps wildlife. For example, allowing brambles to take over areas had a huge benefit, even though this may challenge our sense of orderliness. I'd recommend a visit to Knepp Estate in Sussex, which sounds lovely. I'm with you. If somebody said to me, we're going to clean up the planet and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. Building an electric vehicle which flies all around the world before it's put together, the batteries, the minerals, you're getting rid of these things once they're no longer fit for purpose. That is going to create so many issues for this planet. That I don't buy. That I buy. That's what we need to be doing, and I'm all in on that. I tell you, 100%. Thank you for that, Luke. Net zero is a scam. There needs to be prison time. We have the highest energy prices in the world. All I know is that when Boris Johnson pushes net zero, he ain't known for his charity work. I love you, Andrew. Nick Legg said nuclear would take too long, and then went off. had to re-edit that, to Facebook on a 10 million salary, and a dodgy Wiltshire solar farm owner fleeced Thurrock Council and went off overseas. There's definitely scammers out there on this, isn't there? And I like you, I'm not buying people going, oh yeah, net zero. They're all in there. They're all deep in the cookie jar, aren't they? They're all deep in there. Let's talk to the wonderful Sheldon in Swansea. Hello, Sheldon.
Good evening, Petrie.
How are we?
I'm okay, sweetheart. How nice to speak to you.
Lovely to speak to you as well. What do you make of this net zero stuff?
Right, let's start with the planet we live on. This planet is so old, we don't actually, no scientists or anybody else in this world knows how old this planet actually is.
Billions and billions and billions of years.
But there is a peculiar name for it. It's called Gaia.
Yes.
And the word Gaia means that it has always been capable of self-regulation. Whatever is thrown at it, it comes back and still stays here. Now, I am not a climate skeptic, and I am not against the idea that we need to do something to clean our acts up. However, the current hysterical response to climate change only goes back to the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, when we and the rest of the world, well, some of the rest of the world rather, decided that we had an industrial revolution.
Yeah.
Now, many, many, many billions of people didn't have that industrial revolution.
No, they're having it now.
And we had the privilege of it, and they are now entitled to their own.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is that there's no way we can control their lives over ours anymore. I think that people like China and America and other climate deniers are entitled to do what they wish to do in the current circumstances. I don't particularly like it, but there's nothing we can do about it.
But don't we know more now? I mean, that is the thing with science and wisdom, isn't it? That just because we did it in a time period that we didn't know the damage we were doing, it doesn't mean that they should be allowed to do it now that we know the damage. Do you know what I mean? Do you see what I mean?
I agree. But that industrial revolution we had was a blink of an eyelid.
Yeah.
And it's their blink of an eyelid now. And I think this world, this planet we live on, will survive whatever happens.
Oh, it will. We won't.
Whether we will survive.
Yeah, that's the point. There's been wipeouts at least 5 times that we know in history, where the entire planet, apart from a few cells, that survived. And that's the only reason that we've risen to be the A1 predator, because if there hadn't been a wipeout, the dinosaurs would still be on the planet, right? They were very successful.
I am so glad you mentioned the A1 predator, because I have another theory. I think climate change is nothing more than a capitalist ruse. I think they've run out of ideas how to make mega money, so the next mega money ruse for the supreme capitalists of this world is to frighten us into a state of purchasing anything or making us do anything they want us to do in order for them to carry on making mega money.
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. I would back that. But I do logically believe that even though we've been on this planet for a split second in terms of its history, right? That what we're doing to it is not good, right? No. We know that we're absolutely destroying the oceans. We know that all the plastics and we are having an impact on the planet. We are trashing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. But don't you agree sometimes that it's the result of our capitalist system?
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we're all responsible for it. I mean, this is the bit that we can take responsibility for, right? Is the responsibility of of knackering up the planet. We all know that. Yep. Every time we buy something from China, every time we buy a bit of plastic that gets thrown away, every time you buy your grandchildren another plastic toy, you know, that is going into landfill somewhere. And that gets shipped off to poorer countries and dumped in the ocean and dumped on land. So that's what I believe that's what we need to fix.
My biggest problem with the whole issue is to do with individual countries. I cannot understand for 1 minute why 0.25% of the effect on climate change is coming from Britain. We are a very tiny effect, yet we are obsessed with it.
Well, according to the energy specialists I spoke to, it's because we pack a punch and that people follow us. I don't believe that anymore.
Now you were talking about soft power here. Mm. Now, soft power doesn't equal real power.
No. I don't listen. I think if somebody said to me, we're going to add a bit of money to your bills to clean up the country, to clean up the world, to clean up the water, to clean up the oceans, I'd be all in. I'd be like, yes, take my money. I'm happy with that. Get manufacturers to come up with packaging that melts, right? It's possible. Exactly. I've seen it. Yeah. It's possible.
Of course.
You know, saran wrap made from potato. It's a thing. It happens. But plastic, but you know, potato starches. So all of these things can be done. That's where we need to be concentrating, I think, and I think the whole country would be behind that. But this net zero, I'm not buying.
No, net zero itself, I think it's an impossibility.
So do I. I think it's a fantasy. I think and certainly in 24 years, I think it's a fantasy.
It is a fantasy.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful idea, but it's never going to happen.
No. So let's do something that will happen. Let's spend our money. Let's spend those trillions.
Yes, indeed.
On cleaning up the planet. Great.
Why don't we go to the places where all the plastic getting stuck in poor turtles' mouths and whatever we are doing? We're
doing that. Each one of us, every time we buy something that is disposable, we're adding to that mountain.
In front of me, I have a plastic phone and a plastic vape.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm as guilty as anyone.
We all are, and I think we know that. And so if somebody were to talk to us like we're talking, and say, look, let's forget about the big climate change picture, which
agenda,
you know, we've only been here 5 seconds. We know the climate is changing. We don't know how much of an impact we're having on it, but we are having an impact on the planet. We know that. We're paving over it. We're using it as a dustbin. Let's clean that up first, and then we can come back to and things like growing brambles and growing wildflower. You know, all of these things will help with carbon capture.
Yep.
I can buy that. I can see that. I can feel that.
I buy into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. We need to pivot the language, I think.
But I cannot buy into the idea that every human being in Britain is going to get a pump instead of a heat pump instead of a boiler.
Fantasy.
Make any difference.
They don't even work properly. I know people with heat pumps. They just say they're rubbish. They don't even work properly. And it's not just the heat pump. You have to change all the pipes and the radiators. You have to change everything. So
they are minor issues, but they are part of a concept which is only going to create more wealth for people who are conning us into the idea that we are going to save the planet by buying more things.
I agree. And all those heat pumps and things, they have to be made. All of the windmills, the solar panels, they're all really bad for the environment to build. So let's forget that and clean up that I can buy, that I can get involved in. Sheldon, it's wonderful to talk to you. Send my love to Faye, won't you?
Darling, right? You have a lovely night, okay?
Send my love to Faye, won't you?
I will, sweetheart.
All right, darling. All right, lots of love. Take care. Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, the more that's what I think we should be doing. And I think we would all accept that we all have a responsibility for that, right? We all know what we do. Quick break. Back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, talking of podcasts, just a reminder that at the end of the show there is a podcast of the show. So wherever you get your podcasts, if you're missing out, if you want to go to sleep or whatever, and you want a familiar voice to talk you to sleep, then you can always download the podcast of me. So wherever you get your podcasts, if you just put Petrie Hosken in, you will find all of the podcasts. So, and that should get you off to sleep, no trouble. No trouble. Right now, though, we're talking about net zero and can we really achieve net zero by 2050? And do you buy it? I mean, seriously, are you bought into this? There's no doubt the climate is changing. There is absolutely no doubt. We can see it, right? We can feel it every winter, every summer. We know this is happening. But is net zero the answer to stopping it? I don't know. Ernie says, I love this actually. This is great, Ernie, thank you. He says, people keep saying we're killing the planet by overuse of fossil fuels. No, we ain't. The planet has been around for billions of years and will still be here in another billion years. What we're doing is killing our ability to live on this planet. Mother Nature has given us the ability to live on this planet by giving us fossils to sustain us. There's probably been millions of civilizations here before us who died out because they didn't use the resources we have to evolve and use technology to enable us to find a way to live in harmony with nature. You need the money from the resources that we've been given to enable the scientists to create the perfect environment for all life on Earth to exist in harmony. If we throw away this opportunity, we'll go the same way as other civilizations went before us. And I agree with certainly the first half of that we are killing our ability to live on the planet. Once we all die out because we've done something stupid, which we are absolutely bound to do, there will be other civilizations, there will be other life on this earth, and it may not be human beings. We shouldn't. We've had our go. We're particularly bad at it. I don't think human beings deserve to go on, frankly. So I think we've had our go. The earth will clean itself after we've gone, and it'll be a much nicer place without us in it. But I completely agree with what Ernie says there. We're not killing the planet. The planet will survive. It's us, and we probably deserve it. Saeed has called from London. Hello, Saeed.
Yeah, hello. Yes, I think these are some very interesting contributions. Look, I'm not particularly interested in this planet continuing if human life is killed off. So I do want humans to be around and thriving and living.
Do you? Because we're horrible. Yes, we're not capable of living in this world without a war.
No, absolutely. So let's change how we live on this planet, right?
I'd love
and that. Let's stop over-consuming. I think our entire economy is built on consumption. And if people stopped consuming, the economy, because of the way we measure it, will start to crash. And so we need to change and make sure that we are not overburdening the planet. I mean, the extreme weather events have become more and more frequent.
Absolutely.
Just even in the last 10 years, last 20 years, we can see that happening.
Absolutely.
And we're coming to a tipping point. And the scientists have been warning us for a while. And what's interesting is that the oil companies made forecasts in the 1970s about how the world will heat up. And they were pretty accurate, but they deliberately hid that information because they knew that would be against their economic interests. And there is a tiny group of companies and people who have a massive carbon footprint relative to vast majority of people. And so we need to make sure that the burden of fixing the climate falls on the right people, because these are the people who have created climate change.
But
Now,
there's no interest in doing that, Saeed, as you know,
Yes,
when there's money to be made. It's like there's no
No,
interest in
absolutely.
stopping global wars because of the money that's made.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think
We are
need to-
horrible.
No, I agree, but we need to change, right? So, and people have an ability to change if they're given the right incentives. And so, what we have is, if you go to a restaurant, right, they will have single-use ketchup and mayo and other stuff because it is so much cheaper to buy it rather than have larger bottles that have to be stocked and cleaned by labor. So that's why they've made these switches. And so we need to make sure that these costs of environmental damage is placed on the companies who are economically benefiting from that climate. Now, the other thing is that, look, we were, as one of the callers said, we were one of the earlier adopters of the Industrial Revolution. As a result, the UK has, over the past 200 years, a very significant contribution to climate change because we have been consuming so much. So it is appropriate for us to pay a higher contribution. Trying to ask India or Pakistan or some of these other countries to pay or not industrialize to save the planet while we ourselves have industrialized and have caused huge damage is very, very unfair. Right? And on a per capita basis, we still consume far more than the Chinese and others. So that is our thing. And the last thing I'd like to say is that there is also, we need to adopt this technology. Why should it be China who's the front runner in solar panels, etc., and EV cars, etc.? We have lagged behind. We have outsourced our entire industrial capacity to the Chinese.
Yeah, we don't make anything. We should be making our own, right?
No, absolutely. But that was a disastrous decision taken by Margaret Thatcher to deindustrialize the UK economy in favor of the financial sector. And we are facing the consequences of that. And if you look at our neighbors who are similar economies like France, Germany, and others, they have much higher industrial bases than we have because we went for the financial sector because it was easier to make money on this.
Yeah. I completely agree. I completely agree. But don't you think, though, Saeed, that if we were told that the money was going towards, cleaning up the planet, changing technology, changing packaging, all of those things, that we would be, because we can understand that, we can see what we've done to this planet. We know that every time we throw away a crisp packet, that ends up somewhere in the ocean, right? We know that. So don't you think that as a species or even as a community, we'd be more on board with that rather than this sort of pie in the sky net zero?
Yeah, look, I think net zero, we might not get there, but I think it is still, directionally, it is the right thing to do, right? Saying that, look, we need to reduce our carbon footprint. We might not get there, but let's give it a try.
But as Tonya pointed out, by trying to achieve that, there's all the carbon and there's all the all the guff that we send out into the air, building those heat pumps and building those windmills and building those electric cars and getting rid of them when they're no longer fit for purpose. That's where net zero falls down for me. Whereas if we were told that this is about cleaning and getting this planet back to a much more perfect sense of nature, I can buy that. I'm in.
Yeah, no. Look. I am sure car batteries, etc., have an environmental burden, right? But I think there are various studies which have proven that there are significant savings over a lifetime because they're not emitting sort of poisonous gases. They're not sort of consuming fossil fuels, which are being sort of dug up from extremely sort of politically unstable and unfriendly countries.
Well, except the minerals to build the batteries, that's what we'll be going, that's what Donald Trump wants Greenland for, right? So wars are going to be fought over minerals.
Look, wars are being fought because we have a psychopath in the White House who wants to drill and wants to invade various countries, right? I mean, so let's change that.
I'm going to buy that, although a lot of people go, that's outrageous. I'm with you 100%, Saeed, on that. But listen, I think that that we're in a world of pain, and I think that some of that is attributable to us, and a lot of the mess in the planet all of it is down to us. And I just hope that we grow up enough that we can learn to have some respect, not just for the planet, but for each other. Syed, wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much. Got to take a break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk. Good morning, it's Petrie, and with you till the top of the hour. And we're talking about this net zero and the fact that the cost of us going net zero is way higher than we thought, and it is complicated because I've been looking at these figures, but it doesn't seem that anybody really has a very accurate idea, because the costs swing from 4.5 trillion to 9 point something trillion. That's quite a wide swing, isn't it? But let's be honest, it's a lot of money, right? Whichever way you look at it. So it is, look, we're going to have to go that way because oil, coal, all of those things, they're finite, right? There's only so much in the planet, and there's only so much we can get out of it. So in the future, quite a long way in the future, we do need to be energy self-sufficient, and probably renewables is going to be the only option. So I agree with that, but this rush to it in 24 years, 24 years, I think is ridiculous fantasy, to be honest with you. Loads of messages in on this before I take my last call of the hour. Heather says, I'd rather spend money on defence and security of our country, me too, than net zero, because climate change is natural weather patterns, and nobody change the weather patterns, but we can defend and protect our country. I do think we have an impact on the planet. as I said. I don't know how much that is, but I do believe that human beings are not doing the best thing. But Heather, I completely agree with that. John says, how the hell are we supposed to buy one of these electric cars? I'm a pensioner and own a diesel car. I can't get a loan at my age. I mean, I can't afford one at the moment. Zarina says, it appears to me that the government are gambling with our welfare while they hope that the rest of the world might follow our lead. Your guest did not say anything to reassure me. No, me either. I did try. As you know, if you were listening. If you weren't, you can get it on the podcast at the top of the hour. So Benjamin says, so when we get to net zero, we can sit back and rest on our laurels with the satisfaction that we've set an example. Do we also get a nice shiny medal? I mean, FIFA, they've already given out a peace medal to Donald Trump. Maybe we could each get a carbon emissions medal from FIFA, since they're giving medals out now. This one says, for me, net zero is about taking away people's choices regarding how they travel, how they heat their homes and how they live their lives. It's a form of tyranny which will greatly impact the less well off. It really will. Strangely, the concept has only gained traction since it's become apparent how much money, I think that's what Saeed was saying, wasn't it? How much money it can make for its adherents in terms of subsidies, and we have a new breed of eco-billionaires who are no better than the traditional capitalists they deride. I'm horrified by the latest news about phasing out diesel fuel. My diesel van allows me to travel safely with my dogs and to travel long distances to pursue my leisure activities. Another freedom potentially lost. I despair. Fiona in Bristol. Brilliant comments, Fiona. I hope you're still with me. I really appreciate that text. Very well done. Here we go. Driving into Liverpool from Manchester sign declared a nuclear-free zone. That always used to make me laugh, even as a youngster. Sadly, at the same time, some wag had painted on a motorway bridge on returning, welcome to Manchester, cup-free zone. Ouch. That is hurtful and not very nice. That's what I mean. Human beings are horrible. They're not nice. Right, let's talk to Stephen in London now. Stephen, good morning to you. What do you make of the conversation we've been having in this hour?
Good morning, Petrie. I did laugh at your comment about the nuclear-free zone. It's not going to be much good if the bomb drops. That would make me chuckle.
Well, I used to think that, and it's the same with us if we're net zero and the rest of the world isn't, right? It's like putting a signpost on saying it's not going to help us. It's not going to make any difference.
It makes you feel good, maybe, but for a while.
Yeah.
Until the bomb drops. My thought is that a lot of the problem is that we're destroying the environment because it's publicly owned, so we get tragedy of the commons. So after the fall of the Soviet Union, the economic destruction was enormous because it was all publicly owned. And if you go to somewhere that is not privately owned and you drop litter or you destroy it, who's going to pay? Well, probably they won't even fix it, or the taxpayer will have to pick up the bill. But if everything was privately owned and you start destroying an area, then you'll get sued by the property owner because the property owner has an interest in protecting his own property or her own property.
But we should all consider the oceans our property, shouldn't we? And look, it's not us dumping stuff in the oceans, but it's us creating the stuff to dump. We are responsible. And I wonder if the whole conversation should pivot to us taking that responsibility. We know we're responsible for that, and we are prepared to take responsibility for that, I think. But when you start talking about climate change and net zero, I think it's too sort of nebulous. We don't feel we're responsible for that.
Yeah, but you need to motivate people to take responsibility. So if you, at the moment, there's no motivation. If you drop some plastic in the ocean, nothing's going to happen to you. But if that's a privately owned part of the ocean, then you'll get sued for doing that by the owner of the ocean. Therefore, you have a motivation not to drop plastic into the ocean. Otherwise, you're going to get sued or fined by the person who owns that part of the ocean. Same with land. We saw that big fly tipping thing has been coming to the news recently.
Yeah. In Oxford, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
But nobody's, as far as I know, nobody's been caught for that.
Well, I don't think anyone owns that land. If that land was privately owned, then someone would have taken action. You're ruining my land. We'll fine you for dropping. But because it's probably publicly owned, it carries on.
Yeah, as far as I know, nobody's been collared for that. But we've got to learn, as a species, we've got to learn to stop creating the rubbish in the first place. And with that, we need help from manufacturers who are not putting the money into research, into discovering ways to make, you know, packaging, for example, just biodegrade.
They could do that, but it would probably cost them more to do that, which would mean the price of the products would go up. And then would people be willing to pay more?
I think we would, because I think that is something that we do know we're responsible for. We do know that those floating islands of rubbish are down to us, down to our consumption.